everybody. How are you? I'm Jules of Thought. Today is April the 12th, 2023, and this is my channel, Allegedly Innocent, where we talk about extraordinary crimes, trial discussion, and overview. And sometimes we go back and do historical trials or crimes. So, what we're doing now, we've got a couple of things going on. I do always try to do updates on the Suzanne Morphew disappearance, and there is a little bit of news with that. I'll be talking about that later. Also, I'm trying to follow closely along with the new homicide investigation related to the death of Stephen Smith 8 years ago in 2015 and his close relationship with the Murdaugh family. And so that is an ongoing. We also have, I've really not covered it on my channel because I typically don't really do investigations or trials related to the assault of children, but I am supporting the Sleuth Mom and Another Day in the Car with Jules related to the prosecution of Letitia Stout in the death of Gannon Stout. And that, I'm telling you guys, that is a crazy story. That trial is really, really something. Like I said, I watch with Another Day in the Car with Jules, and then I also watch with Sleuth Mom. They both have discussions and whatnot. It's just a little bit different, but I watch both for each day. So, but my primary right now going on is the prosecution of Lori Vallow in the deaths of Tammy Daybell, JJ Vallow, and Tylee Ryan. And it's been crazy, right? And the judge is different. I think there have been some dramatic steps taken to try to protect the reputation of the LDS church. Many of these prosecutors and attorneys, court officials, many are themselves LDS. And so, it would only make sense that you wouldn't want your church to be negatively impacted by let's face it, a crazy person. So I get it, but I do think that maybe it does seem to be that the links that Judge Boyce has taken to keep people's interest low, try to stifle communication or conversation related to this crime or these murders and this trial. Perhaps the motivation was to try to protect the Mormon doctrine. And I don't really have a negative or positive view of that. I'm just trying to explain it. Now, I got a couple of things. I do want to go through the court proceedings today. It was only a half a day. We'll talk a little bit more about that. It does seem that it was Lindsay Blake, the lead prosecutor. It is her family that has been affected with the death in the family, and that is why they let out early today. But they are supposed to be back in court and ready to roll tomorrow. I thought that Jim Archibald, he's one of those guys that the more you know about him, the worse you are in terms of disliking him. He's not a very personable fellow. Well, maybe I shouldn't say personable. He just seems to be, curmudgeonly. Is that a good word? Curmudgeonly. And a curmudgeon is like a bad-tempered person. I guess a cranky old man, kind of like a sourpuss, right? Somebody who just, let's say it in the proper psychobabble. He is quite low in agreeableness. Okay. Now, I thought it was terrible. He came out of the, I think I'm going to have to move my silly birds. Barry behind bars loves to talk when I start talking true crime. If I get quiet, he's dancing. He's excited. Okay. I'll hopefully we can get through this without me moving them. Hey, hush up. Thank you. Okay, I think they speak English. Um, so when he was leaving, there were some reporters and they were trying to get a statement from him. Um, and they asked a few questions. He was very vague, kind of non-responsive. And then they said, "Well, do you have a message for the people of Idaho?" Now, this is coming after you have learned, people have found out that these children were not just killed. These children were brutalized. They were brutal. Same thing with Gannon. It's actually shocking the level of violence that these three children were subjected to. You just can't. You almost cannot bear to hear the description. It's just too much. So we don't always like journalists. Prince Harry is in England right now fighting against the paparazzi and in the British consortium of newspapers that hound them all. But you would think that this man, the lead attorney, you would think that he would have some kind of like awareness that people are watching. And so they've asked a few questions, and he's sort of non-committal, vague kind of responses, or non-responses, really. And so the reporter then says, "Well, what would you say to the people of Idaho?" And you know what his response was? I don't know if you guys have heard this or not. You know what his response was? He said, "Well, I hope they have better things to do than to watch this trial." There you go. Boom. Curmudgeonly. That's the word for the day. Thank you, Mr. Jim Archibald. Curmudgeonly. Or if you're from Louisiana, we just call him a grumpy old bastard. All right. Okay. Now then, I am very sorry to Lindsay Blake and their families. Yes, Peb's mom. That is what his response was. That's what he said. "I hope the people of Idaho have better things to do than to watch this trial." Why, Jim? Can you explain that comment at all? Because the reality is that people are just horrified at what your client allegedly did. So, can I just say, I think Lori Vallow chose herself an attorney that is a great match for her little love cult. You know what I mean? Their kind of love we don't need much of, is all I got to say. All right, so we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead. I know everybody is rushing to play these audios. I get it, and I am putting them up. They'll be available on my channel, but they're on everyone's channel. I did try to add like some video and try some photographs and some visuals to make it a little more appealing while you listen. But we're gonna do this one live. Does that sound okay with you guys? All right, so let me get it up, and let me start it. Hold on. I hope everybody's doing well. Where is my... Okay, I did curmudgeonly. There we go. I found it. All right, y'all ready? Here we go. Put a 1 if you can hear this. Oh yeah, the Cannon Stout, that is literally brought me to tears, literally crying. And that is not something I don't typically do that, with people I don't know. But listen to Gannon's. Oh, that poor baby.
We will go back on the record this morning. KCR 22211624, State of Idaho versus Lori Vallow. We are in jury trial at this time. The state continues with its case in chief. The court was advised that due to some unforeseen circumstances, the state was requesting a modification of some of the trial schedule relating to today as well as Monday. Is that correct, Mr. Wood?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So as I understand it, the state may have an issue where they'll need to end early today, as well as a request that we not hold trial this coming Monday. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Have you discussed that potential change of the schedule with the defense?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Thomas or Mr. Archibald, is there any response to that request to modify our trial schedule?
Your Honor, we understand the circumstances. We have no objection.
All right. Based on that, the court will modify our trial schedule accordingly. So we'll get through what we can today with the state's case in chief, and we'll plan on also not holding court this coming Monday. I'll advise the jurors of that at some point as well when appropriate. Yeah, are there any other matters we need to bring up before we continue with evidence this morning, Mr. Wood?
Not from the state.
From the defense? Okay, and the court will note that the parties are all here present and the defendant as well.
Hi, Krisha.
I apologize.
How are
I
you
should have said
doing?
before, but in terms of our jurors, have they all reported this morning and signed?
I want to stop for a minute and say hello to Krisha. Well, I know that this has been hell on earth, Krisha. I know it's been bad. So I think, while it was, a little bit frustrating if everybody's ready to get through this trial, to have, not have a full day, you guys probably needed the time. So, yeah. So in one way, it might be a blessing that y'all had an afternoon off. Yeah. Well, Lori needs more than her roots tended to, Peb's mom. I think her issues go quite deep. Yes. You didn't go today? Yeah. You guys, that was rough. Absolutely. I cannot even imagine what you guys, the only thing I can say is just, thoughts and prayers, and try to get through this thing without, letting it all unravel. Cause I couldn't believe her little show she put on about how upset she was. She's just so upset she can't look at this. And you're like, well, sorry, but you were the conductor of this great orchestra. So sit down and be quiet and watch what you did. Yeah. So anyway, I do hope you guys are, at least finding some rest, and just so sorry that y'all having to go through this. I couldn't run out of there fast enough for lunch. Then me and Mom ran back up there with all the Lori drama and her not wanting to attend. As soon as boys ruled, we were out. Good. And it was a little bit satisfying, or maybe a lot satisfying, when Boy said, sit your butt down and listen up, girl. Right? Long time coming that Lori has had somebody talk to her that way. So that is the first time, I think it's the first time that I have applauded Judge Boyce's ruling. And I was very happy that he told Lori to sit down and be quiet and toughen up. You did it. You be quiet and listen. I was thinking what Lori was thinking. I'm sorry. Well, this is going to sound very cynical, perhaps, but are we sure? Do you really believe, Peb's mom? Do you really believe that Lori was upset? Or do you think that Lori was ashamed of herself and embarrassed and did not want to stay where people could look at her, seeing what kind of real monster she is? For me, I interpret it as, it doesn't feel very good when that mask is getting ripped off. That's what I thought was, that mask has been ripped off now. The whole world knows what she and Chad and Alex were. And that is what made her upset. She's been knowing what she did to those babies. She's already known that. Me and Lori had a long stare exchange before she flipped out. I hope it was because of my stare. Well, like I said, she's one of those people that lives in this make believe. Oh, look how pretty I am. Look how special and cute I am. And the whole world loves me if I just turn on my charm. But you guys, y'all know the truth, don't you? She know of all the people, she knows that you and Larry and Kay, y'all know the truth. Y'all are the real deal. She's not pulling her stuff over your eyes. Colby, maybe she can still impact him a little bit, but you guys, oh no, 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 no. She knows that y'all know that she's full of it, right? So I would be willing to bet that when she was looking at you, it probably came to her mind, oh crap, here I am. All of my, family, home people, they're all about to find out what a true monster I am. And she wanted to hide. She wanted to hide. I believe that in my heart. I don't think it was, oh, I'm shocked to find out what happened to Tylee and JJ. Oh, no, 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 no. This was purely selfish on Lori's part, in my opinion. Purely selfish. In my opinion, the camera needs to be right at Lori's face. She should face the world for what she had done. Amen, Pam. I would absolutely agree. Yes, 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 yes. DB says, I hope your stare flipped her out. If she could have sucked into her own backbone, she would have. She tried to. She needs to face it, just like everyone has to face it. That is exactly. Listen, you and Larry and Kay, if y'all got to be subjected to that, she damn sure should be sitting front and center. So I was really, really happy with Judge Boyce's ruling. Can I say this too? The argument that was made by Lindsay Blake was perfect. It was great. It was perfect. So while I celebrate Judge Boyce and say thank you, that was such a great ruling, that thank you, finally, a ruling goes for the family. Lindsay Blake did a great job arguing that little trick that Archibald tried to pull. So she really, I think she's a really fine attorney. I really do. The trial has barely gotten started. There's already so much more to come out. Oh, I know, JoJo. I'm afraid when you get a narcissist like Lori Vallow involved in anything, it's a circus. It goes along with that kind. And I'm gonna say this too. I've talked a lot about like the dark tetrad and the addition of sadism to account for criminal activity, and and personality disorders, they come into all of that. Whether you want to talk about the dark triad or the dark tetrad, personalities become a part of all of that symptomology, right? That's really what those labels, those personality disorder labels, are all about. It's to give to have those label provides professionals the ability to have a conceptual conversation without having to stop and outline each individual symptom or sign for every person. If you're talking about severe antisocial personality disorder, somebody high in sociopathy, or you want to talk about like borderline, really disorganized borderline severe symptoms, that has meaning for people that provide clinical services to people. I'm not talking about some mild symptomology with borderline. People are doing well, they're effective in their lives, and they're just trying to be happier and more stable. That's different than like this full-blown kind of personality disorder that can be so damaging and disruptive. And I really think the more we learn about Lori Vallow and her actions, her behaviors, even her early life, the more you learn about her, golly, she does. She looks like one of those people that's walking around with this, triad of personality disorder, like narcissism, antisocial personality disorder, as well as which one did I leave out? Borderline personality disorder. She it that looks appropriate, that looks accurate. It looks like what you might find as an example for that type of triad of personality disorder, or the pit viper, right? It's just this writhing mass of ineffective, damaging, aggressive behaviors, all being fueled by a sense of weakness and, oh, look, please help me. I'm just this hurt little girl that needs some love and attention. Well, your need for love and attention doesn't outweigh the needs of Tammy Daybell and Charles Vallow and JJ and Tylee to have their lives. But for her being so wrapped up in all of that high emotional, unchecked drama, she let herself go there. She let herself get to that point. She convinced herself in a delusional state that I always knew I would be special, which is the narcissism speaking. I always knew that I was going to be special. I always knew that I was destined for greatness. And now I found, my handsome prince, gag. Now I found my handsome prince. And so I don't want to give up. I don't want to take the chance that I'm not going to be queen. I don't want to give up being a priestess. And so, I'm just going to look the other way and let them do this. And I'm just not going to think about it. I'll think about that tomorrow, said Scarlett O'Hara. So it's, it's a writhing mass of just ineffective, difficult relationships, fears, angers, lots of damage from the past, and it just coalesces into this animal that just consumes anything in her path. And that pretty well describes the path that Lori Vallow has taken. And I'm afraid that Jim Archibald will soon find out just how difficult that she can be. So, let's not forget why it says, Jim Archibald is a grumpy old bastard up on the screen. So anyway, let's see. Persecution complex is a common theme in her and Chad's religion. Yet almost raises their sense of righteousness, doesn't it? It almost, this, what is it? Like me and you against the world, right? It's all horse poop. It's not real. It's just delusional fantasy. When you look at her history, the influences that she had from her family of origin, and then you combine it with his nonsense, Lord, that was just a disaster waiting to happen, literally. That's it. I've talked about it before. You take a antisocial, narcissistic person, and you connect them to a dependent personality disordered person, and you got a 6 o'clock news item in the making. It just ends up being a disaster. And this was of epic proportions. I'm going to tell you this. I don't know how they're letting Jason Mao and Melanie Gibb walk away from this thing untouched. I don't understand that. And I can get into more on Jason Mao. I've had people before say, why do you say his name? Aren't you worried that he'll prosecute you or, sue you or whatever? Kind of not. Because if he does that, then it's going to open up the book for discovery. And my goodness, I wonder what's there. So, yeah, Jason Mao's got some highly unusual connections. And Melanie Gibb and their nonsensical, let's conjure up some earthquakes this evening. They really should not be allowed to walk away unscathed. They should be held. I will say this, I put up a video not long ago and I proved that both Melanie Gibb and Jason Mao lied, bald-faced lied about how it is that they came to know or be friends with Lori Daybell. They lied. If you kind of pick apart their lies and take it down to what is verified truth, then what is true is this, and this is true. Jason Mao and Melanie Gibb, David Warwick, these guys were all in the inner circle with Chad Daybell and Julie Rowe long before Lori Vallow ever showed up. Is that right, Crusha? So if they're already there teaching all this nonsense, and Lori is just sort of this latecomer. Now, she brought her own special nightmare with her, but she was a latecomer. They were already doing this. They were already this bizarre dark and light related to like movie stars or professional athletes. This was all happening before Lori really, got sucked into the madness, I think. So, and like I said, she brought her own, nightmare influences into it, I think, and that fired Chad up even more. But I don't know how you let Jason Mao and Melanie Gibb get out of this. And I've got my own thoughts about David Warwick, but at least he had the dignity to be frightened. At least you could look at him and tell he was scared to death. But Melanie Gibb was arrogant, lied to Nate Eaton's face, just bald-faced lied to his face. So, yeah, see, Crusha said, yeah, that's right. Lori was the connection with Chad Daybell, Jason Mao, Melanie Gibb, Julie Rowe, that was all there in place. That was their group. And then they brought Lori into it. And Zalema Pastenis. So it's kind of pretty crazy stuff. Yep. It's the church leaders. Allegedly. It's allegedly the church leader. I think that when you've got a church, and I certainly don't believe that this is all of LDS. Don't get me wrong, okay? But when you have the kind of church organization where you've got 15 fat cats sitting at the top of this mighty throne with more money than God, and they have the audacity to send out letters that say, you are not allowed to respond to a subpoena. You are not allowed to get involved in any sort of illegal proceeding. If you receive a subpoena, if someone approaches you to be a witness in a trial or anything, you must go to your elders. You are not allowed to get involved with that. And Mark Means asked the question, what? So if these guys, if someone from the LDS religion receives a subpoena and they choose not to respond to the subpoena, they're breaking the law. They can be arrested. And the church said, so if you do respond to the subpoena, if you do get involved with the trial without our approval, then you may be excommunicated. So which is worse, to be excommunicated from your church or to get arrested for a few days for contempt? This is the leadership of a large multi-state international organization like the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. That's crazy. It's a learned behavior. I'm not licensed. I'm also not dumb. These people learn this behavior from their church. Well, when you see these patterns, when you look at some of the actions that this little group was involved in, whether it was conjuring up earthquakes or multiple probations or getting sealed in marriage across lifetimes in the temple, second anointing, all of that. And then you can go into the actual church documents and information and find the very same rituals came from somewhere. And when did they excommunicate Chad Daybell? Not until he had his preliminary. He was of good standing while he's running around telling people, "Ooh, don't look up my veil." Right? I mean, I hate to make a joke out of it, but this is one of those cases, I'm afraid, where things are so dark and so devastating that you almost have to look at it through a little film of kind of cartoonish quality to be able to stomach the reality of what these people did. The reality of what they did is the worst horror movie imaginable. It doesn't get any worse. If you're JJ and Tylee, it doesn't get any worse. It really doesn't. Makes me thankful I didn't know or meet these kinds of people, so I've been protected from more than I even know. Yeah, I remember reading some of your posts. Wait, what? Yeah. Yep. Do you want to be a Mormon? Right. I shouldn't do that, but can't help myself sometimes. You know what I mean? I used Magic Write in Canva. Hold on, I got to pop up. Use Magic Write in Canva. Jules, go type it into your Canva app. Ask about Chad Daybell, and then ask about Lori Vallow. See the response. So go into Canva and just search for Magic Write. Ask about Chad Daybell and then Lori. You should laugh because they're crazy. They're crazy as a Betsy bug. That's how crazy they are. Okay, they are. That is Krayzee, people. It doesn't get any worse. Really doesn't. Commergian, old, cranky, and more than a little stubborn. A commergian is the gruff, gray-haired neighbor who refuses to hand out candy at Halloween and shoos away holiday carolers with a bah humbug. Or a curmudgeon is the guy who says, "Well, whatever they do, I hope the people of Idaho have something better to do than watch this trial." Sorry, Jim. Sorry, Jimbo. Not only are the people of Idaho watching justice for JJ, Tylee, and Tammy Daybell, but the people of the United States, and yes, people of the world, because we have people that are from England and Scotland, and they are watching every minute of this testimony or listening to every minute of this testimony, Jim. So no way you're going to wiggle out from under this one, Jim. She's your client. You get to bask in her sunlight. You know what I mean? All right. There is a new feature, Magic Write. I asked who is Chad Daybell. Then I asked who is Lori Daybell. And it makes one wonder who owns what. Interesting. Okay, let me go ahead and get this started. Thank you, Kresha, for coming in and talking with us. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I appreciate it. And I'm going to be quiet now and start the audio again.
And their affirmation. Very well. Thank you. At this time, then, if we could please have the jurors brought in.
of people.
Okay. Do you know any of the names?
I remember Detective Dave Hope. I remember Detective Dave Stubbs. I remember Lieutenant Colin Erickson. That's the only names I can remember.
Okay. And those are guys that you've worked with for a while?
That's correct.
Okay. So I assume there are some people from the ERT team, from the FBI ERT team there as well?
Yes, sir.
And you indicated that that it was a slow and methodical type of a situation. How long did that take before you pulled out the green bucket from when you started from the top? If you can remember.
Well, we started late afternoon. Well, I shouldn't say late afternoon, early afternoon on June 9th. We didn't get everything out of the ground until afternoon of June 10th.
Okay. So what did you do between, I believe, I thought you said that you started digging in the fire pit or sifting in the fire pit around 8:30. Is that right? Does that sound right?
On June 9th.
Okay. And then you switched over about a half an hour later to the pet cemetery, right?
Correct.
Okay. So what did you do between, say, 9 o'clock and early afternoon?
Let me back up. I didn't switch over to the pet cemetery. I switched over to JJ's burial site, which was under the tree.
JJ's burial site. Okay. And then you did that between 9 a.m. and when?
JJ's burial site,
Yes.
9 a.m. until probably 1 p.m.
Okay. And that's when you switched
I'm-
over to the pet cemetery?
After JJ was removed from the ground, I went to the morgue.
Okay.
And then I came back, and that's when I went to the pet cemetery area.
I
Gotcha.
think that I wish
Alright.
they would not have said the
And
pet
so
cemetery. I
when
wish they
you
would have
left
said
with
Kylie's burial site
uh,
to show her some respect and
who was
dignity.
it that you went to the
right.
morgue with? You went with Brenda Dye, right? She was there.
She was in a vehicle in front of me. In my vehicle was Lieutenant Ron Ball.
Ron Ball.
He does look like Chris Farley. Yeah,
How
he
long did you guys
does.
stay at the morgue?
15 minutes.
So it was just a check in, turn the body over, then you left and went back?
Correct.
All right.
I would have gotten great pleasure to say, sir, it's not the pet cemetery. It was Kylie's burial site. That's what for some reason, it seems cruel. It seems cold to just reduce it to the pet cemetery.
I'm not sure if I was a little bit confused about something. You said, I believe on direct examination with the prosecuting attorney, that you had found some teeth and some bones at the fire pit. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
They sure
and
are,
that
Tricia.
was when you first started at 9 or when you first started at 9 a.m. in the fire pit area, or was that later on, that first day on the 9th or the second day?
No, I believe it was the first day when we started sifting through the dirt and debris from the fire pit is when we located those.
Okay. And where, as we talked about the fire pit being a very large area, where in relation to that ring of where the fire pit was, the actual fire pit area. Where in relation to that were the teeth and the bones found?
I don't recall.
Were you the one that recovered them?
No, sir.
Who was the one that recovered those?
I don't recall who exactly it was that recovered them
Oh, come on, Thomas.
Okay, how did you come to the knowledge that there were some that were found?
because I was there on scene.
Okay, but you don't know who found them, and you don't know
Do you know who
when they were
found them?
found?
No, sir.
Did you read your discovery, Mr. Thomas?
I believe you said that you left on June the 10th to go to Ada County. About what time did you leave Fremont County?
Roughly 3 in the afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah, and
then when you
so
got to
far
Ada County,
they
I'm
haven't even
assuming
been able to
it was
poke a
after
hole, have they?
normal
They
business
just look
hours, after 5
incompetent when
o'clock.
they go up there.
And
Their
so,
questions are silly.
how does it work when you drop a body off at the coroner's office?
We called. They knew we were on our way. There's a bay that we pull into. They had one of their employees meet us at the bay. He then took custody of JJ and Tylee out of the back of the coroner's vehicle, and they were left there in the custody of Ada County Coroner.
Okay. And do you specifically recall who this particular individual was that was working at the Ada County Coroner's office?
I don't recall a name, no.
Okay.
I'm sure there's paperwork on it.
Okay. Did you recall seeing him the next day at the autopsy?
No, he was not at the autopsy the next day.
Okay. So it wouldn't have been one of the people listed on the whiteboard.
That's correct.
That's awesome, Krusha. I heard somebody asking earlier today about the jury.
I want to jump back a little bit to JJ's burial site. I'm going to hand you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 10H.
Thank you.
So this is a photograph of the burial spot where the rocks had been removed already, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And these are the boards that were recovered?
That's correct.
Okay. Did you ever look or try to see where these boards might match in this house? Did you find anything in the garage or in the barn area or anywhere else on the property?
We did.
And was there anything that came of that?
There were boards that were similar to the style, similar to the thickness, but we were never able to match, if you will, the sister board to the boards that we located.
Okay. And where did you locate those boards?
In Chad Daybell's garage area, just on his property, the red garage area.
Okay. And were you a part of that actual search?
I was a part of the search, yes.
Okay. And you were one of the ones that were trying to match these boards up?
I personally didn't try to match the boards up. We were all part of the search looking for boards similar.
Okay. And when you say all, you mean everybody that was on the property that day?
Not everybody, but a lot of people.
Okay.
I'll
Anybody
look
in
at them,
particular that you
Shalimar.
remember?
No, sir.
Okay.
Exactly, Pamela. Yep.
When you searched the apartment of Lori Vallow or of Alex Cox or of Melanie Bedreau, Melanie Pulowski, you didn't find any boards that matched, that even looked similar to any of those boards, right?
We weren't looking for boards at that time. The search was November 27th, 2019.
Yeah.
We didn't search Mr. Daybell's property until June of 2020.
Okay. Did you find any boards, anything in your search on when you searched the apartments on November 26th? Anything popping out into your mind? Any
Money,
spare wood laying
money
around,
makes
anything like
people
that?
do crazy
Sir, we
things,
weren't looking for boards at
right?
that time, so I
It
wouldn't
can
have been
make people
drawn to any
forget
boards.
their
They
values,
wouldn't have meant anything at that time.
Okay. Did you take photographs? Were there photographs taken of those searches?
There were,
Okay. You've studied those
Oh,
photographs, right?
I'm sure.
yes.
Okay. I mean, it's
Think
part of
of
your
yourself.
investigation. You're the lead investigator for this team today, right?
That's correct.
I mean, if you really
So that would
think
have been part of
about
your
this,
job, is to study those
what
photos,
happened to
be there on
JJ
scene.
and Tylee and
Nothing
Tammy and
came out
Charles,
that looked like there were
really
any
it was money, wasn't it?
boards or anything like that
You know,
in
I've
that search
wondered,
or in any of those photographs.
I don't recall any.
I've wondered to myself at times if, Chad ended up getting the money for the death of Tammy, and it was quite substantial. You had Chris Watts, and they managed to keep this secret for a very long time. But Chris Watts ended up with a big boat of cash from the deaths of Shanann and the two children. And it turned out to be crazy because the Chris Watts mom and dad, they were demanding that they should get the money, when obviously the money went to Shanann's mom and dad as her what do you call it, her beneficiaries. But they actually sued Shanann's mom and dad, trying to get part of that money. And you're in your mind, you're thinking, are you okay? Like, what are you thinking? It was your son that took the lives of these children and these people's daughter. They are the named beneficiaries of Shanann's, life. Why in the world would the murderer's parents be entitled to a dime of that money? And yet, when people see large sums of money, it makes them forget themselves. Like I said, it can make you large sums of money can make you abandon your values very quickly. You don't believe me? Just watch some of the drama channels on YouTube. People will go to extraordinary lengths to try to rake in the cash.
Boards in any of the photographs.
Okay. And you did a thorough search of those apartments?
It does make people stupid.
For the children?
You did a thorough search of the apartments, right? You photographed a lot of stuff.
Correct.
Okay. Jumping back to the autopsy, you indicate that you were there when JJ's autopsy was done. Was there any trace evidence collected on that particular day on June 11th from the autopsy?
We stood in the back. The medical examiner didn't let us get too up close with, he had his team working around JJ. So I wasn't directly involved with the autopsy, so I can't answer to that. I just observed.
Okay. At any time later after the autopsy was done, did you take trace evidence off
It
of
is
JJ's body?
the
I did
defense
not know
attorney,
personally.
John
Do you know
John
anybody who
Thomas,
did?
and one of the investigators.
I do not know personally anybody that did.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right.
Oh, Michelle.
Mr. Wood, does the state have any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
You can accept.
Of course, Angel Girl. Hi, Steph Banana. Welcome. Hey, Big Ups.
Detective Herman, CEO. On cross, You were asked about the
This is Rob Wood,
weapons that were
prosecutor.
found in the garage of apartment 175, correct?
Correct.
And if you had any knowledge that they belonged to Lori Daybell,
I do not have any knowledge that they belong to Lori, no.
right? So why did you take pictures of those items that day?
A couple reasons. One, it was extremely suspicious to have those guns along with everything else we located. We took photographs because and took the guns out of the residence because when we went inside the residence, the door was broken. It was unable to lock. So we took photographs of the weapons and held on to the weapons for safekeeping at that point.
Okay. And so at the time, why were those weapons suspicious? That's the word you used. Can you clarify that?
At the time, we knew that there was an attempted homicide in Gilbert, Arizona on October 2nd of Brandon Boudreaux. We also realized through our investigation that there was an attempted homicide or an attempted shooting at Tammy Daybell on October 9th. And that's why the weapons were photographed.
Okay. And they were seized, correct?
Correct.
I have a couple of questions, Kresha. Number one, the shooting or the attempted shooting on Tammy Daybell, where the gun, didn't shoot and the person ran away. Who do you believe that was? What's your opinion on who it was shooting at her? Do you think it was Alex? Do you think that it was Chad? Do you think it's some weirdo and it just got kind of messed up in this story, or you believe it was Alex? And then let me ask you another question. In Arizona, do you believe that it was Alex trying to shoot Brandon, or do you think that may have been Chad, or maybe Melanie was driving and it was it was Lori shooting? Hey, Queen Bella, welcome. Yeah, Queen Bella said, Alex. Could have been Chad, but Alex was parked down the road at the church. Interesting. All right, so Alex is sort of like the angel of death, isn't he? That was sort of his job, I guess, with this group. Okay. Interesting. Now, I know that Gabe was there in Arizona when Charles flew in and Lori had twisted off and, stole his truck and all that. Melanie Gibb, in one of her interviews, she sort of suggested or said that she saw Jason there, remember, around the corner? Alex was Lori and Chad's fall guy, but Lori and Chad and friends are all fall guys for the bigger church. I have been of the belief that there were people bigger, more well-connected than Chad and Lori. That Chad and Lori were chosen and they were given this particular role. And I don't know, you have to ask yourself, what was it for? Like, what was the reason? Was it to attract more people to their prepper group? Maybe it was purely metaphysical and the mystical side of the Mormon religion. But I've always thought that that wasn't the end. They were not the first dominoes. There are dominoes way above Chad and Lori. I'm convinced of it. And I really do believe that Melanie Gibb, David Warwick, Jason Mao, somehow I think they were a part of this. Yeah. Jason being there is a big tell. It sure is Moonlight View. And when she said that she went over and saw Jason, went over and said, you have to ask yourself, well, why in the hell would Jason Mao be there with Charles and Gabe just because he's just flying back from work? He's just coming back from doing his job. There was really not supposed to be anything special, that night. It was just, people travel all the time for work, but they knew there was something odd going on. So why did you have all of these representatives, from at least from top guys in the ward, right? So it's very ritual murder exists in the church. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but my research takes me there every time. Yes. The problem is that you're going to get people that are going to say, that they are LDS, they're Mormons, and they don't do those things, right? And then, of course, the response would be, well, of course you don't do them. The majority of people are good and decent people. That what is actually in question here is not all parishioners of the LDS church. LDS is all over the world. There was a big Mormon group in Egypt, in Cairo, Egypt. It's not the individuals. It's that there seems to be a very powerful group hidden in the power structure of this larger organization. And they seem to be the ones that are really connected to some highly questionable murders. There was just recently a new murder, a man, again, Arizona, Mormon. The man ended up killing 8 of his family members before killing himself. It was a strange story. It's very, really, there's so much of this. It's uncomfortable. And you can't tell me that every time this happens that we're all going to say, oh, just coincidence. Could have just as easily been Southern Baptist or Catholic. Well, if it could have been just as easily Southern Baptist or Catholic, then why isn't it? Why does it keep being Mormon? The dentist, he was dating an orthodontist here in Texas, just outside of Austin, and he's in Colorado Springs. He just killed his wife. They're Mormon. There's something uncomfortable that the men seem to feel, well, almost entitled to take the life of their wife or families. If it's not working for them, if they need a different, they need a reset. They don't want to go through the court system. They don't want to get divorced. Why? Oh, well, it brings too much shame. But if your wife dies, then you're fine. Just like the Daybell children standing up and supporting their dad. I don't know how they could listen to what happened to JJ and Tylee and continue to support their dad. I don't understand that. I don't. They want their members to be scared enough to purchase food and survival stuff. And they're making a killing off of that survival food. That prepper stuff is incredible how much is getting sold. Hi, Diane. Welcome. The cult got their cut. They isolate it. It pisses me off. These institutions are profit driven. It's crazy. It's all happening in the temple. Plus, they're sealed to more than one woman, right? Talk about state-sanctioned polygamy. Let's try God-sanctioned polygamy. Try to fight that one, ladies. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes I can finish Jill's sentences as she searches for words. Well, I'm trying to be careful with my words. I have a tendency toward the passionate, and I have to be careful that that what I say is appropriate, and I don't want to engage in hyperbole if I can help it. It's their way to practice polygamy in plain sight. This is a common theme. Colorado is strange. I'm going to tell you, Pebs, it is. And, I've heard people make comments like, well, it's got to be the altitude, blah, blah, blah. My daughter had another thought. My daughter said, Mom, it's not altitude. It's because we don't get very much sunshine in the winter. Everybody's walking around, with depression in the summer in the winter because there's no sunshine. A friend of mine from Canada married a guy from Texas. He died 5 years later, and he was Mormon. The Mormons have been paying her rent, utilities, and food for 3 years. Wow. Wow. Think about Alex shooting at Brandon, Tammy, Charles, all in plain sight. Chad and Lori in Hawaii, plain sight. That's, I couldn't figure that out. That was something that was really hard for me to wrap my head around. What level of compartmentalization are you engaging in where you've got 2 little kids murdered and spouses, and you're dancing around, frolicking in the water in Hawaii, acting like you're a 16-year-old bride? That's some serious compartmentalization. That's almost dissociative. I saw a documentary that highlighted the inverted pentagrams on the temples. Yep. My ex-husband and I married right out of high school on his 6th wife. Ooh, my gosh. Yeah, good for you, Diane. She's getting her food met and she's getting her SSI from America and Canada. She made out like a bandit. Yeah. All right. So let's go back to listening. Thank you for answering my questions.
And now, in light of all the evidence you're aware of, why are those things relevant? Why are those weapons relevant?
Because we're unsure whether those weapons were possibly used in those crimes.
Did you stated earlier you had no reason to believe they were Lori's?
It's that
at the
prepper
time, did you
thing,
have,
Crusha.
a
That's where
reason
all
to
that
believe who they belonged to?
ammunition and
No.
food and
Okay.
it's like the Branch Davidians. It's like the David Koresh people too. They were the same way.
Defense
They had
counsel
a
asked
damn
you about
howitzer
the steps you
in
took to obtain a
Texas.
search warrant, correct?
For which warrant?
Well, let's talk about that. Let's go back to the morning of November 25th.
Okay.
That was the day, and correct me if I'm wrong, was it November 25th that law enforcement first made contact with Lori Vallow?
That was November 26th.
November 26th, thank you. And defense counsel asked you about a conversation that led you to take steps to get a warrant.
Correct.
Now,
think-
just to
I don't
clarify,
think I know what
so
that is, Crusha.
everybody,
What was the Halloween mask? Is that what Alex was wearing when he shot Tammy? Allegedly. Entitled and sanctioned. It was in the stuff they had revealed yesterday. Gosh, I'm telling you, I have so much respect for y'all. What y'all are having to, endure every day. An old time looking monkey mask. And was this they recovered this in Lori's storage building? Or at Chad Daybell's house? Or with thin braided rope, black and neon green and duct tape. My God. it's like a movie, Kresha. It's such an abomination. Yeah, it's fear based. Absolutely, Moonlight. It's like MK Ultra, right? It's like we'll make it so crazy and so unbelievable that nobody would ever believe. It's just incredible. The Bible is clear. God hates divorce, and to be in ministry, your life should be above reproach. After divorce, you should step down. Steven Spielberg could not think this up because this is purely evil. Because this is an abomination. What they did to little JJ and Tylee is unthinkable to a normal person. Oh gosh, get ready. The MK Ultra thing. Yeah. From what I would have not been able to listen to all of yesterday. Tuesdays I work so many hours and I'm just dead at the end of the day. I'm just, asleep in bed. So I need to do this one, and then I've about halfway finished with the one from yesterday. So I need to go listen to it. But from what you're describing, all of the ammo and of course we know about the prepper food because of the night that Charles came home and everything was, gone. But the mask, where did you say that the mask was? It was in Alex's apartment. An element of hypnotism. They were all divorced at least once. And to the victims who we know nothing about, and to the victims of the future. And that's the other part of it, right? The nightmare your family has experienced, but do you really believe that you're the only family? You don't think that this type of influence hasn't happened somewhere else? These people acted with so much audacity. Like they didn't care. They were convinced that they were not going to be held accountable. Don't you think, Kresha? Absolutely convinced that nothing bad, that they would never be held accountable for what they were engaging in. They were convinced of it. And convinced. So that tells me, why would they be so certain that they would be okay? And I'm going to tell you this. I think Joe Ryan was the first victim. I think she practiced on him. I really do. I think she practiced. I think she got away with it. Whatever it was that she gave him, it ended up being determined a natural death, just like Tammy's was identified as natural before they exhumed her body. Look at how Alex died in a very similar fashion. So were they using some kind of chemical, some kind of poison, or even a natural substance that would create blood clots, which would create like a pulmonary embolism? It does sound conspiratorial. It does sound like hyperbole, but how do you get any bigger than what this family has experienced? There's no way to make this any worse. When you hear about Tammy being attacked in her driveway, and people just disregarded her. You think somebody comes up in my driveway with a gun? You think that Piddlin' Bill lets me stay here another night? No way. If something like that were to happen to me, I would be locked down. Wherever he went, he'd be dragging me behind him. But they didn't do that. People just kind of marginalized her. They were just like, no, it's probably nothing. It's probably an airsoft gun. Just don't worry about it. Don't worry about somebody comes up to you in your driveway. They try to shoot you twice, and the only reason that you're still alive is because the gun failed. So you don't think somebody should have taken notice? This story doesn't get worse. This is worse. This is the height of obscenity. Gibb is divorced. Wardick is divorced. Mao is divorced. Little Bear is divorced. Lori is divorced. Chad is a widower. Zulema, I don't know how many husbands she's got. I think Lori and Zulema are having a competition to see who can have the most husbands. I really think they are. It's unbelievable. Melanie Pulowski, nothing like getting divorced from like a prince like Brandon Boudreaux, those beautiful children, and then you turn around and marry somebody a week later who is just like this weak kind of little soy boy. What? This is a crazy story, y'all. Lindsay Blake's family member died suddenly after Lindsay Blake confronted Lori 2 days in a row. Her family member suddenly dies. Crush's grandmother died on March the 17th, 2018. Wow. They have a way. They're doing something to make it look natural. I couldn't agree more. Okay, so your grandmother died. Lori did not come in with my uncle to bury his mother. Wow. You mean Lori? So Charles's mom died and Lori did not go with her husband. Oh my God. MK Ultra is about programming from the youngest age possible. So I think probably, and I know that Martian Planet Art knows a lot about the whole MK Ultra history. It is a real thing. A lot of people say, "Oh, that's not real. That's just conspiracy theories." No, it's actually real. It was funded by the U.S. government. There was also a lot of research that was happening in Canada, Germany as well. But the experimentation, which involved pain, torture, psychedelics. They used LSD, and the idea was that they could erase your personality, and then they could give you any personality they wanted to give you, and it was inhuman. There are people. I think there may be a couple of women in Canada that are still alive that went through the process, but ultimately, to make a very complicated history, short and to the point, they did discover some Senate records that showed payment to some of these doctors where they were able to make the case, no, the U.S. government is definitely funding research, this whole MK Ultra research. And so it was outlawed and it was abolished and it was illegal and all those things. And it actually served to act as the predecessor to your universities being required to have oversight and, informed consent, and all that. But there's a lot of people that have kind of been following along through the years, and they claim they're still doing the research today, that they use what they've learned on like performers and some politicians and kind of like turn them into notable assets. Now, do I believe that kind of, 007 kind of stuff? I don't know if I believe it all that way. But I do know there's no doubt that the U.S. government did use LSD, ketamine, and other psychedelics to try and erase the memories and replace the personalities of unsuspecting research participants. Some of them were only making like $4 a day to basically be, given schizophrenia. So why were they doing it if they didn't have something in mind for how they could use it, right? So, it's kind of frightening. Joe Ryan was found in an advanced decomposing condition. I think Lori and Alex killed Joe Ryan while Uncle Charles was out of town burying his mother. Wow. Wow. Yeah, didn't she climb in the window of Joseph Ryan's apartment? I'm convinced that he was the first one. I'm convinced of that. And she held no response. No one even questioned her about it. No one even questioned her. Jason Mount is ex-military. Get an electronic weapon to cause heart attacks. I don't know. But what's notable between at least Tammy Daybell and Alex was the pulmonary embolism. They both, had the pink froth that comes with the embolism. An example of what would be known as MK Ultra is the Wizard of Oz and Alice in Wonderland built-in programming with regards to MK Ultra. Absorbed through pores. Each one had dollars connected to them being deceased. Yeah, absolutely, Queen Bella. And like I said, a lot of people don't know, but Chris Watts, he would have had a large amount of money coming to him if he had not confessed what he did. You can already tell just by what I said that you're onto something because they do program them from the earliest ages. Yeah, it's kind of scary, Mary Rose. They all divorced and they all remarried in a church culture that frowned severely on divorce. Absolutely. I know. When I saw that, why do you have these alpha women divorcing normal men, just regular good guys? They're divorcing them, abandoning their children, and then they're turning around and marrying these soy boys, and they've only known them a week or two. What's going on here? And that was when I started thinking this is some kind of setup for like a matriarchal kind of parallel to the church, right? That it's going to be maybe LDS doctrine, but it'll be a matriarchy rather than a patriarchy. And the neighbor died. That's freaky. And yeah. And Chad Daybell's sister-in-law, the wife of his brother, she is very freaked out about their neighbor. She got scared about that. She thought that was very unusual. Lawyers have died. It's scary. Yeah. The Melanese is one of the most audacious, I think, of all of them. She's very disconnected as she's talking about her Aunt Lori. There's always grace. There's healing after divorce. I'm not being legalistic, but leaders should lead by example. Otherwise, divorce will spread through the congregation like wildfire. Then they get married again and get pregnant right away. It's not isolated to just Chad and Lori. It isn't. There's a large structure around them. Look, a question. Who is Nicole? Who would that be? Oh, she definitely fits the definition of serial killer. Read the rest of that. Joe Ryan was found in advanced decomposing condition. I think Lori and Alex killed Joseph Ryan while Uncle Charles was out of town burying his mother. Borrowed time. I mean, they all divorced and remarried. She wins. Melanie's 2. Ian 2. It's not isolated just to Chad and Lori. Finish reading that comment though, because I think it's when Lori and Alex killed Joseph Ryan. Wow. Brandon's grandfather died, and Melanie refused to go to that too. She refused to go with him. He tried arguing with her about it, but just said, fine, I'll go alone. Well, call me a conspiracy theorist because it's reality once it touches your own life. Yeah, you know what I call it, Krusha? Conspiracy realist. That's what it is. It's conspiracy realist. This was absolutely in every way conspiratorial, and a lot of people have died. For what? A lot of people died for what? For delusional quest for power. That's it. Nothing more. Somebody bigger than Chad and Lori are benefiting financially from all of this foolishness. And it's not going away with Chad. Just because Chad and Lori are arrested and they're out of the game, people that are making that amount of money, they don't walk away from it. They just go a little deeper underground. They just learn to hide it better, right? It's very worrisome. I would be, if I was law enforcement, if I was FBI, I would be watching Melanie Gibb like a hawk. The Unabomber was tortured at Harvard at age 16. I don't know about that. I mean, I know he was brilliant. They killed Alex to shut him up. President Oaks of the Mormon Church was conducting shock therapy to those. Oh my God, that's horrifying. It was done at private hospitals and universities. I don't believe in coincidences or conspiracy either. Where there's smoke, there is fire. Go finish reading and comment about my grandma. I thought that I had. Let's see. Did I miss part of it? Let me see. Okay, I think this. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna read. Here's what I got. Gibb divorced, Warwick divorced, Mao divorced, Little Bear divorced, Lori and Chad did not have to divorce. Zalima had more husbands than Carter had liver pills. My grandma died on March the 17th, 2018. Lori did not come in with my uncle to bury his mother. That's just unforgivable. Joseph Ryan was found in an advanced decomposing condition. I think Lori and Alex killed Joseph Ryan while my Uncle Charles was out of town burying his mom. So with Charles going to bury his mother, that left Lori free to run around and do whatever dirty business that she was going to do, and Charles would not have seen it. Okay. Borrowed time. I mean, they all divorced and remarried. Melanie and Ian too. It's not isolated to just Chad and Lori. And then you said read the rest of that. I think I found it all. Did I find it all? Yep. We're going to call Kresha a conspiracy realist. I'm going to change my name from Jules to conspiracy realist. Chad's neighbor also died of pulmonary embolism. Yeah, that they have some kind of substance, I believe, that they're using that's being undetectable to now. I feel like even Lori and Alex were part of SRA, with Janice and Barry being all up in the LDS church, but more SA. That was quite interesting when Alex's ex-wife came out and told about why she got divorced from him so quickly, that their physical relationship with one another was so inappropriate that she did not want her children in that family. That's crazy. Yeah. But SA, let me say this, Kresha. SA is quite often used in cults. It's also been implicated in the whole MK Ultra Hollywood thing. They do use SA as part of this shaping experience. So, I mean, it's evil. You don't want to voice it because it's such a nightmare. But after what the ex-wife said, it's a little bit hard to ignore that, Alex and Lori, when they were young, were making simulated sex acts right there in front of their mom and dad, and everybody laughed. Nobody thought it was inappropriate. You got to think about that. We don't act like that in Louisiana. You know what I mean? Yeah. My grandparents would have been like, if you lost your mind, that you get your tail in, outside and behave yourself. Yeah, it would have been bad. Yeah. I think the women knew that their husbands were figuring them out. Lori was going to replace Joseph Smith in their fantasy. Nancy James wrote a Facebook post about Little Bear meeting with the elders. He had the Book of Lehi. It's a golden-walled cave guarded by 3 guards. 3 presidents of that church sacrificed a 16-year-old virgin. My God. My God. Ugh. So they had to sacrifice a 16-year-old virgin to gain entrance. And this was like for the Church of the Firstborn. They just abandoned them, Queen Bella. They just had these beautiful children, these great husbands, and they just walked away for what? Insanity. Zombies and conjuring up earthquakes. It defies understanding. Pretend that it is not a church. Call it for what it is. It's a corporation, agreed. And it protects to an extent those members who pay tithing. That's okay. Satanic ritual abuse or ritual murder, which is sacrifice, right? Ritualistic sacrifice is the way they look at it. I'm not a Mormon. I'm a literate biblical Christian. The Bible interprets the Bible of 144,000 as the Jewish believers. Yes. Conspiracy realist. Yeah, Kresha. So Michelle said, this must be the Twilight Zone for y'all. I can't even, not even being, emotionally connected to what's happened. It's like defies logic. It's so hard when you see all the pictures, like pawn pieces. It's hard to believe that people did this. It's hard to believe that David Warwick walked away from a beautiful family so that he could go. See, here's something nobody talks about, Kresha. So David Warwick, a bishop, he abandons his wife and how many children? 5, 6 children. He abandons them so that he can go with Melanie Gibb to Rexburg and build houses on Chad Daybell's land. What, for the 144,000? These people were living this fantasy like it was real, y'all. Like it was real. This is delusional thought. It was a mass delusion. They were all in hysteria. there are so many stories of churches convincing parents to send their children off, and so many were abused. If you decide to not be in it, you're excommunicated. Yeah, when people refuse to see reality, they call it a conspiracy theorist. Like, it's a bad word. It's not a bad word. Conspiracy involves the government. Theory is something that scientists do every day, but they've used it so that they can ridicule people with that word, that label. So it's like, how can we analyze Chad and Lori when it's the bigger fish who are controlling them? Yeah, the best I think that you can do, where Chad and Lori and Melanie Gibb and that group are, they're all concerned, is these are people that had a desperate need for notoriety. They all craved and hungered being special. And unfortunately, when people don't have much of an identity, when they don't know who they are, when they don't feel proud of their skills and their history, they're wide open to influence by unscrupulous players, right? I mean, who fed Lori all this? Who filled her head all so full of nonsense that she would go from being married, being loved by a man like Charles Vallow, what would be considered a really good guy. He's smart, a very good provider, very handsome, accommodating to her, working hard to please her. I mean, he's basically being that husband that everybody wants, right? It's what you dream of. A handsome, good looking, loving, great father, that. So she has this great guy and she walks away for chins. What? Why in the world would this woman abandon Charles Vallow, walk away from JJ Tiley, Colby? She destroyed Colby's life. Nobody's even talking about that. She tore his life to smithereens, her child. For what? For the likes of, do you want to be a Mormon? Really? The man can't even walk across a room without walking on his tippy toes like some little 7-year-old. You've got to stop a minute and ask yourself, what was it about Lori that got her to a point that she would abandon a very good life for nonsense? And she's not the only one that did it. Melanie did the same. Brandon Boudreaux, great guy. All the above, checks all the boxes, beautiful children. And Melanie just walks away and marries a man she does not know, a stranger. Why? Who put them together? Have you asked yourself that question, Kresha? Who was the matchmaker? Who told Melanie, okay, you're going to get married to Ian Pulowski? And Melanie Gibb, you're going to be marrying David Warwick. Who was the matchmaker? Who did this? Who said, Zulema, you have to marry Alex? Something strange. Yeah, her family of origin was deep into all this magical thinking. Yeah. Yep. It's a recruitment system. And so if they agree to do this, then there's cash involved. There's the carrot is the money, or the eternal salvation, or in their case, I guess it was even being this whole second anointing thing, right? Being given all this power. It's just crazy. It's crazy. The leaders telling Jason Mao and the Mike Strouds and the Melanie Gibbs and so on, eternal salvation is the carrot. And they buy into it. It's just hard to believe how these people walked away from basically the American dream. That's what everybody's searching for, is to your prayers when you're young is that you find a good person to marry, somebody who'll be your friend and love you and be a good parent to your children. And then you got enough money to pay the bills and maybe go on a vacation or two every year. And these women had that. They had it, and they walked away from it for this bizarre religious delusion. Being special, being chosen. That's it, though. That's it, isn't it? It's that, oh, do you want to be a part of the 144,000? Yeah, that's it. That's right. Look at all those carrots Michelle put up there. That's what the product is that they're selling. Yep. Mind control. Yeah, it's heartbreaking. Really heartbreaking. All right, I'm going to start the testimony again. Thank you so much for being here and answering questions, Krusha.
He understands. When you made contact with Chad Daybell and Alex Cox, who did you call?
Lieutenant Ron Ball.
Okay. And what did you do after Lieutenant Ron Ball arrived on scene?
We went back to apartment 175, knocked on the door. There was no answer. We also went to 174, which was Melanie Boudreau's apartment. Knocked on the door. There was no answer. There was also no answer at apartment 107.
Okay. And so at that point, what did you do?
At that point, we attempted to call Lori Vallow from a cell phone number that Chad Daybell finally provided to us. There was also no answer on the cell phone. So at that time, we drove to the prosecutor's office to see if we needed to obtain a warrant.
Okay. And who is we? Who are you talking about?
Myself and Detective Dave Hope.
And did you obtain a warrant on November 26th?
No, we did not.
How come?
We were able to make contact with Lori Vallow, and she was instructed to open the front door, that there were detectives outside that wanted to speak with her.
Okay. And to your knowledge, did she speak with them?
She did.
Okay. Now, yesterday, defense counsel asked you about a conversation that led you to take steps to get a warrant, correct?
Correct.
And you mentioned a Melanie Gibb, correct?
That's correct.
What was the conversation that led you to contacting Melanie Gibb?
When Lori Vallow was contacted by Lieutenant Ron Ball and Detective Dave Stubbs, she stated that J.J. Vallow was with Melanie Gibb in Arizona. Immediately, we attempted to call Melanie, and she didn't answer the phone. They went back to the residence, made contact again with Lori Vallow, and she stated that J.J. wanted to go see a movie, Frozen 2, and that Melanie Gibb had taken J.J. to the movie to see Frozen 2, so that's why they weren't answering the cell phone.
Okay. And to your knowledge, were you or other law enforcement able to get into contact with Melanie Gibb eventually?
Yes, we were.
Okay. And did she have JJ?
No, she did not.
And is that what led you to get a warrant the next day?
That's correct.
Thank you. Defense counsel asked you yesterday about all the tips you received. Correct?
Yes, sir. Correct.
Tell us a little more about the process you had set up to receive tips at the Rexburg Police Department.
We had a hotline through NCMEC, through the FBI, and through the Rexburg Police Department. And so when tips would come in to the Rexburg Police Department itself, we would have what's called a tip sheet. And we would have the number of the tip, who called the tip in. Sometimes they remained anonymous. Sometimes they left their name and phone number, and just a brief description of what the tip was. At that time, it was assigned to an officer or detective to follow up with that individual tip and either confirm or deny the sighting or whereabouts based on the information on that tip.
Okay. And as I understood it yesterday, defense counsel essentially said you didn't follow up on every tip, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Let's talk about some different examples of those tips. Once you received a tip, what was you would attempt to contact the person, correct?
Correct.
Were there individuals who you were able to get in contact with?
There were.
Did some people send you pictures?
They did.
Were you ever able to match those pictures with pictures of Tylee and JJ?
No.
Okay. Were some of those tips from psychics?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, here's that part, right,
Did you
Crusha?
have, were there any occasions where people would call and leave a tip and you would try to contact them and they would not respond?
Yes, there were.
Okay. But you did try to reach out to every single one of those people, correct?
Yes.
So you followed up on every tip.
That's correct.
Okay. Defense counsel asked you yesterday about a body cam. They asked if you were wearing a body cam.
Correct.
And you responded that you weren't.
Correct.
As a detective, do you normally wear a body cam?
No, sir.
When you were on patrol, did you normally wear a body cam?
Absolutely. When we were on patrol, we were assigned a body cam. When I went over to the detective division, it's very rare that we make field contacts or we're the first people on scene. It's usually patrol. So a lot of our contacts and interviews are in a more controlled environment at the police department, and a vast majority of those are recorded at the police department.
Okay. Defense counsel asked you about
They're
sifting
doing
through
a-
the fire pit. Can you
We're
describe
doing a
the process of how you
commercial.
sifted and others sifted through the fire pit?
The evidence recovery team, FBI evidence recovery team,
Where's that sound coming from? They're talking about Barry Morphew. Why is that? Hold on, y'all. There you go. Sorry about that. That was weird. My computer woke up all by itself. Yeah. So Barry Morphew, his attorneys have filed a complaint with the state against Linda Stanley. So she is under yet another investigation. So that's going on as well. So back to the trial.
team brought a sifter with them. We would have one person scoop a shovel full of dirt, place it into the sifter. Underneath the sifter, there was a tarp. And so we would shake the sifter, sift through the dirt, and any material that was too big to go through the sifter was examined. Occasionally we would get rocks and different things, but there were many times that we got teeth, charred bone,
So sad.
little burnt pieces of flesh. that were still there. So that was the process. We would call over an ERT member who was in charge of photographs if there was something that was in the sifter. We wouldn't touch it. We would call over a photographer. They would take pictures of it, log it down, and take it into evidence. Once that was completed, we would go back to sifting.
While you're praying for this family and
counsel
those
asked you
affected,
about
these
kind of the
detectives
timeline
and police
of the
officers
search on
that
Daybell
recovered
property.
the children, they definitely need
Correct.
prayers.
So just to clarify that again, approximately what time did you show up at the residence?
Approximately 7 in the morning
Okay.
on June 9th.
And other members of the search team were staged
Correct.
down the road at the Sugar Salem Church?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you recall approximately what time they showed up?
Probably 7:20, 7:30 in the morning.
Okay. You testified yesterday about serving the warrant on Chad Daybell.
Yes, sir.
And you testified about observing him in front of his house sitting in a car.
Correct.
Approximately what time was that?
Approximately between 8 and 8:30 maybe.
Okay. And you observed him, to your perception, looking over his shoulder.
Yes.
You testified, correct, that he was on the phone?
Correct.
Okay. Going back to those tips really quick, you said you followed up on everyone, or the police did. Were any of them credible?
No.
Meaning, and let me re-ask that, I apologize. Did any of them aid in finding JJ or Tylee?
No.
Okay. Have you ever, since June 9th, or let me rephrase that, at any time in your investigation, have you found any evidence to suggest that JJ was alive after September 22nd or 23rd?
No, sir.
Similarly, at any time in your investigation, have you found any evidence to suggest that Tylee was alive after September 8th or 9th, 2020?
Of 2019.
2019, I apologize, thank you.
Not after September 8th or 9th of 2019, no.
Defense counsel asked you this morning about the search of Lori's apartment, or Miss Vallow Daybell's apartment, correct?
Correct.
At that point, was it a homicide investigation?
No, sir.
What were you looking for?
We were looking for JJ Vallow at that point.
Okay. Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time.
Your Honor, I apologize. May I recross? There's just one item, and I know this is, I don't want to get into a thing where we're going back and forth, but there is one thing I'd like to ask him real quick.
All out, limited recross.
Thank you, Your
Mr.
Honor.
Thomas.
Detective, you indicated on redirect examination that there was an attempted homicide on October the 9th, 2019. You specifically used those words, attempted homicide. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. There's no evidence of an attempted homicide on October the 9th, correct?
We believe there was an attempted homicide on October the 9th,
Okay.
2019.
Let me just back up a little bit here. So on October the 9th, Tammy Daybell said that she was confronted with someone who she thought had a paintball gun, correct?
Correct.
And she said that someone had shot a paintball gun in her direction. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you never found any bullets, any bullet holes, anything like that when you investigated the October 9th attempted paintball shooting?
I personally didn't investigate it. It happened in Fremont County, so that would be a Fremont County Sheriff's Office
Okay.
that would have done that.
But you're the case agent here today, and you've reviewed all that information, correct?
Correct.
All right. Thank you.
All right, that'll conclude the testimony then of the detective. As the case agent, you're allowed to remain in, so you can go ahead and step down. Thank you for your testimony today and yesterday. All right, the state can call its next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state will call Lieutenant Jared Wilmore.
And Your Honor, Spencer Rammel for the state on this witness.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rammel.
Abilities, do you oversee the Madison County Jail Telmate system?
Yes.
Can you explain what that system is and how it works?
The Telmate system is an inmate phone system. They can do video visitations, phone calls, messages. It's so people who are in custody can talk to their family and friends on the outside.
And how long have you overseen Telmate in Madison County?
The last 6 years.
And does that include the Telmate system? Does that include both telephone calls and video visits?
Yes.
When a video call is made or taken by an inmate, is the camera always utilized?
Not always. It depends. If an inmate removes the tablet from the charging station, the camera function will go black, and then it just becomes an audio call.
Lieutenant, how do you ensure that inmates do not place calls or video visits on behalf of other inmates?
Each inmate has a unique PIN number assigned to them, so they have to enter in their PIN number. It's also, there's facial recognition for the tablet video visits, and it's managed and reviewed by deputies to make sure that that's not happening.
Whenever an inmate places a call or participates in a video visit, is any information recorded or stored regarding that call or visit?
Yes, anything on the Telmate system is recorded, with the exception of attorney phone calls or visitations. Those are privileged, so they're not recorded. Go in and review any video visits or phone calls under any specific inmate listed that we have in custody.
And do you have the ability to edit or make changes to any of this information?
No.
Where are the phones and tablets that the inmates can utilize? Where are those located in the jail?
In our jail, we have a day room, a pod, we call it. And so in that day room, they are located in just that open day room area, and an inmate can access the phones, the tablets. Again, the tablets can be taken off a charging station and taken anywhere in that day room. The phones are hard mounted to the wall, and so they have to stand next to the, obviously have to stand next to the phone to make a phone call. So.
3. Actually, Judge, I'm going to have them handed 33, 34A, and 34B.
I've seen them. Thank you. We've talked about it.
Lieutenant, I'm going to have you focus on what's been marked as states 33. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
What is it?
It's a thumb drive containing a phone call from June 9th, 2020 between Chad and Lori Vallow.
And how do you know that?
I've reviewed and listened to this phone call.
And specifically, have you reviewed that USB device?
Yes.
And have you initialed and dated when you reviewed it?
Yes.
Fair to say that you monitored a number of jail calls made between Lori Vallow Daybell and Chad Daybell.
Correct. Yes.
And you recognize the number and the voice as the second party as Chad Daybell.
Yes.
And is it a true and accurate representation of a call that was made between Lori Vallow Daybell and Chad Daybell in States Exhibit 33?
Yes.
Your Honor, the state would move to admit States 33.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
States Exhibit 33 is admitted.
Lieutenant, I'm going to have you look now at
Sorry
states.
to interrupt. Just
I'm sorry, Judge.
brief sidebar with counsel, please.
Video visit between Summer Shiflett and Lori Vallow on June 24th, 2020.
And how do you know that?
This is the thumb drive I initialed and dated, and on the date I reviewed the phone call.
And you have reviewed that call on that thumb drive.
Yes.
And is it a true and accurate representation of a call made between Lori Vallow, or excuse me, a video visit made between Lori Vallow and Summer Shiflett on June 24th, 2020?
Yes.
Your Honor, the state would move to admit what has been marked as States 34A.
Any objection?
We have no objection to the admission of 34A if it is what it purports to be.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas. 34A is admitted.
Lieutenant, I'm going to have you now look at what has been marked as States Exhibit 34B. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what do you recognize that to be?
This is also a thumb drive containing a video visitation between Lori Vallow and Colby Ryan on August 3rd, 2020.
And how do you know?
This is the same thumb drive that I dated and initialed after listening and reviewing the video visit.
And is that a true and accurate representation of a video visit made between Lori Vallow Daybell and Colby Ryan on 8/24/2020?
Yes.
The state would move to admit.
August 3rd, 2020.
I'm sorry, August 3rd, 2020.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
All right, the state's moved to admit Exhibit 34B. Is there any objection from the defense?
No objection to 34B, Your Honor, if it is what it purports to be.
Okay, Exhibit 34B then is admitted.
And then can I be handed back State's Exhibit 33, please?
33. That one.
Lieutenant, you testified in State's Exhibit 33. It was a call made between Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell on June 9th, 2020. Does that date catch your attention?
Yes.
What catches your attention about it?
That was the date that a search was made out at Chad Daybell's property, and when the search was conducted, and the bodies of JJ and Taylor were found.
And you were made aware of it that morning.
Yes.
Your Honor, I would request that we publish states 33 to the jury.
Any objection to that being published?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Exhibit 33 may be published to the jury.
This is a call from and paid for by Lori, an inmate at Madison County Jail. This call is subject to recording and monitoring. If you don't wish to talk, hang up now. Thank you for using Telmate.
Hello? So they're searching the property.
The house right now?
Yeah. And then it's so Mark means we'll be talking to you.
What, are they in the house?
No, they're out in the property.
See, she's not crazy. She knew exactly.
They're searching. There's a search warrant. So we're going to stand this James.
I think he sounded drunk. Y'all think he was drinking?
What? Yeah, right. Right. Pretty calm. I would call Mark, well, maybe just talk with him.
Have you talked to him already?
I did call him. Yes.
Do he know what they're doing?
Yeah. So I can call from somebody else I need to talk to. I love you so much.
Should I try to call you later?
I don't know. I don't know. You can try. Yeah. I'll answer if I can. I love you and we'll talk soon. Okay. Love you.
This is a call from and
Crazy, right? They're acting like two little kids whose parents have told them they can't go out on Saturday night
Your Honor,
together.
that's all I have.
And
for
yet
Lieutenant
they
Waller.
the
Thank you.
hell
All right,
that they
thank you, Mr.
visited on
Randall.
these children and Charles
Any
and Tammy
cross-examination for
is
this witness?
unthinkable. And yet they're like, "Oh, I love you. I love you too." They were in a complete delusional state.
No cross, Your Honor.
Terrible.
Lieutenant Wilmore, that will conclude your testimony. Thank you for appearing.
And
this morning,
again,
and
to
you
the
may be
Daybell
excused.
children, do you hear your father? He knew exactly what they were going to find on your land. How do you forgive him?
All right, state can call its next witness.
The state now calls Joe Powell.
Yeah, I agree, Pussycat and Scarlet. Yep.
I love you, Sugar Plums. I love you too. I love you so much. Oh, you're my little pudding pop.
It's obscene. It's
All right,
absolutely
Officer
obscene.
Powell, if you'd just come forward, pause, and raise your right hand, I'll have you placed under oath by the clerk.
So this is Officer Powell.
All right, Officer Powell. Follow the directions of the bailiff there. All right, I'll just remind the witness we're keeping a stenographic record of the proceedings, so please answer verbally using yes or no, for example. Please also try to avoid talking at the same time as anyone that's asking you a question. With that in mind, then also I'll have the state, Ms. Rawlings, please identify yourself on the record before we get started, and you can commence with your direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. I am Tanya Rawlings with the Fremont County Prosecutor's Office.
All right, you can inquire on direct.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, as we discussed earlier, I do have some certified records for medical documents and also a certified copy of the exhumation order for Tammy Daybell's body. They are marked as exhibits 38 through 41, I believe.
Regression,
Based
yeah.
on prior
Something,
stipulation, I
something
believe
like that, big
everything was
ups.
So this is exhibits 38, 39, 40, and 41, correct?
correct, Your Honor.
Okay, individually, I'll call those out, then they've all been offered. Is there any objection to the admission of exhibit 38?
It is, we have to remember that this trial includes the murder of
No, Your
Tammy Daybell
Any
too.
objection to admitting exhibit 39?
Got to keep that, in your mind. Everybody's kind of
Your Honor,
falling
I
in love with
apologize.
JJ
We
and
can go back to
Kylie.
38.
And it's about
It's
Tammy Daybell as well.
on the business record itself, on the front of it, it says Exhibit 83. And on the back of it, it says 38. Is that what you have?
I do. There's lined out, looks like previously marked sticker. I have a courtesy copy, so mine doesn't have the currently marked trial sticker, but probably is worth clarifying on the record the number and the explanation of a sticker on page 1.
Yes, it was used in a prior proceeding, Your Honor, and so the sticker on the front is not the correct sticker. The sticker on the back of the page is the correct one.
Okay, and that would be exhibit 38, correct? Which is it's entitled Business Records Certification of Teton Medical Group.
Correct.
Okay. Any objection now with that clarified, Mr. Thomas?
No, Your Honor. I was just concerned that maybe there was a dyslexic type of moment, but I think we're good.
All right. On exhibit 39, does the defense have any objection to its admission?
No, Your Honor.
On exhibit 40, it's been offered. Any objection from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 41 has also been offered. Any objection from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Each of those exhibits is now admitted into the record of the trial. You can commence with your examination then, Ms. Rawlings.
Thank you, Your Honor. Lieutenant Powell, would you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Joseph Powell, Powell,
Where do you currently work?
Fremont County Sheriff's Office,
And how long have you been employed with them?
21 years.
What is your current job title?
Lieutenant,
Do you have any specialized training in order to be a peace officer?
yes, you have to attend the Idaho Police Academy, and then they require 40 continuing hours within every 2 years.
Do you have any additional training to be a lieutenant?
Yes,
And what training and experience do you have as a lieutenant?
I've been a lieutenant for 6 years, and 100+ hours of training.
Okay. And as a lieutenant, what are some of your job duties?
I'm over patrol, the detectives. I oversee the schedule, look at reports, cover patrol shifts, and help detectives as needed.
Have you worked as a detective in the past?
Yes,
How long did you work as a detective?
approximately 4.5 years.
Are part of your current duties to investigate and follow up on cases?
Yes, if detectives need help or they're busy, then I'll take a case or two.
In your current role, are you informed of unattended deaths in Fremont County?
Yes,
Did you learn of the death of Tamara Daybell?
yes.
When did you learn of her death?
On October 19th, 2019.
Okay. And in addition to that, were you also contacted by another law enforcement agency regarding her death?
Yes,
Who was that?
Gilbert Police Department in Arizona.
Okay. When did they contact you?
On October 31st, 2019.
What did you learn from that contact?
They was inquiring about Tammy's death and if we was investigating it, and they had an attempted murder down there.
At some point, did you become aware of an individual or of an investigation involving someone named Lori Vallow?
Yes,
Did you also learn about an individual named Alex Cox?
yes,
And did you also learn about an individual named Chad Daybell?
yes.
Did the Gilbert Police Department request your assistance?
Yes, they did.
What did they request your assistance with?
Trying to locate a 2018 Jeep Wrangler, gray in color with Texas plates.
Did you personally follow up on looking for the Jeep?
Yes.
Where did you initially attempt to locate the Jeep?
Went to the 202 North, 1900 East in Fremont County.
And what residence is that?
The Chad Daybell residence.
Okay. Why did you follow up on this?
It was just quick and easy. Detectives was busy. So I just got in my vehicle and drove out there and checked.
Okay. Did you conduct additional surveillance when you were looking for the Jeep?
Yes.
Where did you conduct that additional surveillance?
565 Pioneer Road in Rexburg.
And how, if at all, did that connect to the death of Tammy Daybell?
Chad Daybell was at that residence with that residence there.
Okay. What, if anything else, about your conversation with Arizona caused you concern over Tammy's death?
About the death surrounding the individuals and the attempted murder.
Okay. Was there anything that caused you concern specifically with the names Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell being connected?
Yeah, the same with the deaths and attempted murder.
Were you involved in surveilling Chad and Lori?
Yes.
How so?
We surveilled them to a few different locations.
Okay. Your Honor, I'm going to ask that the witness be handed States Exhibits 35 and 36 at this time. And I believe the court and defense has courtesy copies.
Can I take a look at those just to make sure they're the same as my courtesy cup? Thank you.
All right, with respect to Exhibit 35, do you recognize this document, Lieutenant Powell?
Yes.
How are you able to recognize it?
I was sitting at that table when the photo was taken.
And when was that photograph taken?
November 1st, 2019.
Okay. Does it fairly and accurately depict the scene as you saw it on the day that it was taken?
Yes.
Are there any material alterations to that photograph?
No.
Your Honor, I'm moving for the admission of State's Exhibit 35.
Any objection?
No objection.
Exhibit 35 is admitted.
And turning your attention to Exhibit 36, Lieutenant Powell, do you recognize that document?
Yes.
How are you able to recognize it?
This was on that same day,
And can you tell us the date again?
November 1st, 2019.
And does it fairly and accurately depict the scene as you observed it that day?
Yes.
Are there any material alterations to the photograph?
No.
Your Honor, I also move for the admission of Exhibit 36, excuse me.
Any objection?
No objection.
Exhibit 36 is admitted.
And Your Honor, may I have those exhibits back to publish them to the jury?
You may.
All right, and I think this is the third time that I've asked you this question, but when did you observe Chad and Lori at Cafe Rio?
November 1st, 2019.
And this picture depicts that?
Yes.
And what were your observations of them while they were at Cafe Rio?
There's in conversation and eating.
Okay. Where else did you observe Chad and Lori?
Walking in the Hobby Lobby.
Okay, and does this picture show that?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And what did you observe about their behavior with each other?
They was holding hands as they was walking in.
At some point, was an investigation into Tammy's death conducted?
Yes.
Why?
Because of all the suspicious circumstances, the investigation, her age.
Okay. You mentioned her age. Were there any other suspicious circumstances that you'd elaborate on?
Through the investigation, it seemed that she was in pretty good health.
Okay. And was this a joint investigation with other agencies?
Yes, it was.
What other agencies were involved at this point?
Rexburg Police Department, the Sheriff's Office, and I believe the FBI was too.
Okay. At some point, did you turn this investigation over to detectives in the Fremont County Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
Is that a common practice?
Yes.
How is that decided?
It's just decided on by me, the sheriff, or the chief deputy, and depending on the caseload and what's going on.
Okay. What did you do specifically in relation to the investigation involving Tammy's death?
I did a search warrant on the townhomes in Rexburg, on one townhome in Rexburg. And then I helped with the search warrant at the Dabo residence and the exhumation of Tammy Dabo.
Okay. Now, with regard to the search warrant for the townhomes in Rexburg, the one specifically you did, were you able to determine who was on the lease?
Yes.
Who was that?
Alex Cox.
Do you recall the number?
175.
Okay. Did you also seek search warrants for Tammy Daybell's medical records?
Yes, I did.
And what did you learn from your review of those records?
That she didn't go to the doctor very often. She was in good health. She was being seen for depression and hurt hand.
Do you recall from your review of those medical records anything regarding her heart or blood pressure?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. I don't think he has the qualifications to be commenting on medical records.
At this point, I will sustain that objection. I think that's probably outside of the scope of proper testimony for this witness.
Did you run a controlled prescription check or seek a search warrant for Tammy's prescriptions?
Yes.
What did you learn from your review of the prescription records?
Again, Your Honor, I'm not sure he can testify as to review of prescription medical records. It's the same thing.
He can talk about what he saw in review of the records. What that means is probably outside the scope of any expertise he may have, but you can answer that question, and I'll probably have Madam Prosecutor read the question again at this point.
Okay. And I'll maybe lay a little bit more foundation, Your Honor, too.
Thank you.
As part of your duties as law enforcement, are you able to run controlled substance checks for people's prescriptions?
Yes.
And that's a database that you have access to as a member of law enforcement?
Yes.
And so you're able to verify whether someone has a prescription for a controlled substance?
Yes.
All right. And then in addition to that check, in this case, you also did get a warrant for her prescriptions from Walmart. Is that correct?
Yes.
And in checking that, just asking what you observed or what you saw in terms of the prescriptions she was provided.
She was prescribed fluoxetine and tramadol.
Based on that, did that cause you any additional concern?
Yes.
What was that?
Your Honor, I apologize, but if he's going to start talking about fluoxetine or tramadol, I'm going to have an objection. I don't think he's qualified to speak on those things. I don't think there's been proper foundation as to his qualifications as a pharmacist and or medical doctor.
All right, there is a pending objection. I think certainly the officers got the foundation here in the training to review what prescriptions were in terms of what those may mean in a medical sense. I think would be outside the scope of proper testimony. So there hasn't been a response yet, but with that in mind, Madam Prosecutor, you can continue to inquire.
Okay. As a result of your investigation, was a decision made to exhume Tamara Daybell's body?
Yes.
What facts for you played into the decision to exhume her?
She was healthy, her age, there was no sign of heart or blood pressure. And with
Again, Your Honor, I'm going to object. He's now talking about her medical diagnoses.
That's overruled. You can continue to answer.
and with her husband being with another lady so soon after.
Okay. And what role did you play in the process for exhuming her body?
I got a court order from Utah.
And was that signed by a judge?
Yes, it was.
Where was her body located?
Springfield, Utah.
Okay.
Thank you, Justice Jane.
Were you present for the exhumation?
Yes.
And Your Honor, at this time, I'm going to ask that the witness be handed
Same thing,
exhibits,
pussycat,
states
pulmonary
exhibits
embolism,
37A through 37H.
some kind of cardiac event.
All right, the witness will be provided those exhibits.
Much endeavors. I don't know if you're aware or not, but the court is
And,
releasing the audio at the
Lieutenant,
end
can you
each
just
day.
review those quickly?
So I have just as much right to play it as anybody else does.
I apologize, Your Honor. Before he answers, may I take a look at those just to make sure they conform to what I have?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, Blaine, this is the Lori Vallow trial. It's the audio they release at the end of the day. You're not able to listen to trial during the day. Now the Gannon Stout case is going on. I think a lot of people are listening to that, watching that trial. But this is Lori Vallow. fluoxetine and I believe tramadol. So tramadol is a very light opiate type. It's not an opiate, but it's a like a synthetic opiate.
Thank you,
It's
Your
a
Honor.
pain
And just
pill,
to speed things along,
but
I
it's
have no
no
objection to the
stronger than
admission
like
of
a
any of those.
Tylenol 3.
All right, thank you for that, Mr. Thomas.
And then
So
fluoxetine's an
they're
antidepressant.
being offered, I assume, Ms. Rawlings.
Yes, Your Honor. And if there's no objection, I'd move for their admission and to publish to the jury.
Okay, I will.
Neither of those
then
would have
put
been
on the record
associated with
exhibits
pulmonary
37A,
embolism.
B, C, D, E, F, G, and H have all been admitted and maybe.
It wouldn't have been contraindicated, I don't believe. Let me check. I'm not a prescriber, but I,
And
I've had
Lieutenant Powell, in
pharmacology,
your
so.
review of those photos, were they, I think I may have already asked you this, but in case I didn't, were you present for the exhumation?
Yes, I was.
And I'm just going to walk you through this, and maybe it's better to see. So in looking at
Yeah, there's no
And looking at State's
contraindication
Exhibit
between
37A, what does
tramadol and
that depict?
fluoxetine. Although in a rare situation, you
Tammy
might get serotonin
Daybell's
syndrome,
grave,
which would
and
include
off
symptoms
to
like
the
hallucination,
right-hand side, you can see the
seizures,
tobacco.
blood pressure problems, sweating, shivering. But again, that's such a rare serotonin syndrome is very, very rare, but nothing
37B?
related to
The backhoe dig in the grave.
pulmonary embolism. I mean, if you, let's be fair here, people, if you were married to the
37C.
Chadster, you'd probably need
The vault being
antidepressants
lifted out
too.
of the
You know what I
ground.
mean?
$37D.
The vault outside the ground.
And what material is the vault made of?
Cement.
Yeah, fentanyl. They're making counterfeit
37E?
hydrocodone
The
or
vault being open, showing the top of the casket.
Percocet, and it's not even normal opiates. It's the Chinese fentanyl. Chinese fentanyl's not even the real fentanyl that they give in the hospitals.
And 37F?
It's just poison.
Inside the
It's just
vault
a
with
killer.
the casket removed.
4 in 6 people that are using fentanyl, 4 in 6 tablets
37G?
has enough fentanyl that will kill you.
The casket being
That's how bad
loaded
it is.
into the vehicle to be transported.
Okay.
Xylazine and fentanyl. Xylazine is a
Where was her body taken?
like a
To the medical examiner's office
anesthesiology
in Utah.
drug, I think.
And were you present when the coffin was opened?
Yes, I was.
Did you know Tammy Daybell prior to this investigation?
No, I did not.
Were you able to identify the remains of Tammy Daybell?
Yes.
Yeah,
How?
veterinarian sedative.
And 37H is being published to the jury at this time. Was Tammy's body still in a condition that you could identify it based on those pictures that you'd reviewed?
Yes.
Was there any indication that the body or the casket had been tampered with in any manner?
No.
And what did you see inside the casket?
Tammy Daybell's body.
Were you present for the autopsy?
Yes, I was.
Was there a determination as to the cause of death at that time?
No, there was not.
Following the autopsy, what happened with regard to Tammy's body?
She was taken to a funeral home and then prepared and then taken back out and reburied.
Once the autopsy was concluded, were there any other actions taken in relation to that investigation?
Yes, from the other detectives. Then
Now I'm going to turn your attention to January 3rd of 2020. Were you working that day?
yes, I was.
What was your assignment that day?
To help serve a search warrant.
Where did you serve the search warrant?
202 North, 1900 East in Fremont County, Idaho.
And what type of building is that?
It's a single family dwelling.
Okay. And whose residence is it or dwelling is it?
Chad Davis.
Were any other agencies involved in the service of that search warrant on January 3rd, 2020?
Yes, Rexburg detectives, FBI ERT team, and the Fremont County Sheriff's Office.
Did they collect
Fremont County Sheriff's Office?
evidence?
Yes.
At the end of the search warrant, were items found in the home turned over to you?
Yes.
Do you recall who turned those items over to you?
The FBI ERT team
And where was this again?
at 202 North, 1900 East in Fremont County.
And how were the items packaged?
In evidence packaging.
What did you do with those items?
Loaded the items in my vehicle and Detective Mattingly's vehicle.
Okay. And after loading those items, where were they transported?
The Fremont County Sheriff's Office.
After arriving at the sheriff's office, did you turn possession of those items, all those items, over to another officer?
Yes, to Detective Bruce Mattingly.
Okay. And were you involved in booking any of that evidence?
No, I was not.
I don't have any other questions, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Rawlings. Cross-examination from the defense.
Is the court wanting to take a mid-morning break anytime? I mean, just kind of give me kind of a ballpark as to when you want me to.
I was thinking around 10:30, but any
Okay,
time.
I think I could probably be done by then. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Morning, Officer Powell. How you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Good. So I want to talk a little bit about a couple of things. You work for the Fremont County Sheriff's Office currently?
Yes.
Have you ever worked for any other agencies?
No.
Okay. You were contacted by the Gilbert Police Department in Arizona, is that right?
Yes.
With regards to locating a Jeep?
Yes.
Okay. And from that, you were involved in some surveillance of Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And you took some photos. I believe one was at Cafe Rio. Do you know where that was? Was that in Fremont County or Madison County or somewhere else?
That was in Bonneville County.
Bonneville County?
Yes.
And how far is that from St. Anthony? So your office is in St. Anthony, is that right?
Yes, it is.
And this photograph was taken in Idaho Falls, is that right?
If Tammy had
So
any
how far
fighting for in
of a
court, I said
drive
she has
if you
all
were
of
to
us
drive?
here in
How
chat that
far
can
is
be
that?
in court. Yeah, no,
Approximately
it's
30
fine,
minutes.
Much Endeavors.
Okay.
Yes. I meant Tammy has us in chat fighting for we can't
Your
be in
normal
court.
jurisdiction
You
is
misunderstood nothing.
Fremont
about
County, but you
Julie.
indicate
I've been here before.
in this particular case
Very-
that you
no, you're fine,
served a
Mr.
search
Much
warrant
Endeavors.
or
Yeah,
was
it's okay.
the primary on a search warrant in Madison County, correct?
Everything
I'm not
is
sure
good.
what you
Good,
mean by
good.
that.
I apologize.
completely
Maybe
just
I
looked up,
got some
misunderstood
things
what I
mixed
read.
up. You were not on the search warrant of the townhomes in Rexburg?
No.
I'm very sorry.
If I did, I just assisted. I was not primary on it.
Okay. You didn't testify to anything about search warrants in the townhomes in Rexburg?
I served a search warrant to see who was on the lease for the townhomes. Yes.
Okay. And those townhomes are located in what county?
Rexburg,
Madison?
Madison County. Yes.
Okay. All right. And you indicated that Alex Cox was on the lease at 175?
Yes.
Okay. But you weren't involved in actually searching that townhome?
I don't recall, but if I was, it was just assisting Rexburg PD.
Okay. But you don't have any specific recollection of being there when that when those townhomes were searched?
I don't.
Okay, all right. As far as your surveillance goes of Lori and Chad Daybell, how many times did you surveil them?
Just that one day.
Oh, just the one time. Okay.
Yeah.
And did you follow them to their location from Fremont or Madison County?
Yes.
And which one?
From Madison County.
Okay. And where in Madison County did you follow them from?
565 Pioneer Road.
Okay. So where were you? Were you doing kind of like a stakeout or something at that particular area?
Yes.
Okay. And how long had you been there before you saw Chad and Lori?
I don't recall how long we'd been there.
Half an hour, more than half an hour?
I'd say at least a half an hour.
Okay. And then you followed them down to Idaho Falls?
We followed them a few different places, but yes, we did end up going to Idaho Falls.
When you say we, who is we?
There was myself, Chief Deputy Thad Gardner, Detective Stubbs, and I believe Detective Hermosillo was there for a little bit, but then he had to leave.
Were you all four in the same car or were you in different cars?
Different vehicles.
Okay. So you were the only one in your vehicle?
Yes.
Okay.
Call approximately what time they showed up.
And 100+ hours of training.
So JJ's background is a little bit different. I messed it up. Big ups. I pressed the wrong place. I was trying to pause it, but I got it back to the regular place. So JJ, his biological father is Kay's son. So Kay, like Larry and Kay is the biological grandmother. And then she married Larry. And so then Larry becomes a stepfather, like to Crescia and the brother. So the JJ's biological dad was having some trouble. He and his wife were having some trouble. And so JJ was born with drugs in his system. And so according to Louisiana law, you may not release the child to the parent when you're leaving the hospital. So the state takes over the care of that child to ensure that they get the necessary medical treatment to go through controlled with, detox. And then the parent or the caregiver has to go through state ordered education and training and a reunification plan and that kind of thing. So the grandmother steps in and says, we'll take the baby. So Larry and Kay took their biological grandchild home, even though the state of Louisiana has custody of JJ, that they never put JJ in foster care. He went straight to the grandmother's house. He stayed with them for about 8 or 9 months, and Charles and Lori stepped up and said, we would like to raise him. And, Larry is like 17 years older than Kay. So they already had a lot of kids, and they just felt like Charles and Lori, Lori had children at home herself. They were always doing things, going and doing fun things together, going on vacation and whatnot. So things just seemed better. They had plenty of money to get JJ the services that he needed. So they made a decision that they would let Lori and Charles become the adoptive parents. But that did not take away, like in Texas and Louisiana, we have grandparent rights. And so, they could have gone in and said, oh, they didn't, but they could have gone in and said, okay, JJ's being adopted by Charles and Lori, but we want to retain our legal protections as grandparents. They didn't have to do that. They had a great relationship with Charles. There was no reason to believe that they wouldn't be the caregiver for JJ if something happened to Lori and Charles. And once Lori and Charles did separate, Charles had JJ and was living in I think they were in Katy, which is just north of Houston. It's a suburb. She was driving over from Lake Charles to take care of JJ and to help Charles out. So, yeah, Archibald was just being petty when he drew into question whether Kay was actually the grandmother. She is not only the biological grandmother, she was the state determined guardian of JJ, and then of course, the adoptive aunt. So she had more right to be in that courtroom than, anybody else. So that was just Archibald being petty. Charles died of 2 gunshot wounds to the chest. And I believe, it's my opinion, that it was a setup, that Lori and Alex planned it. Alex said that Lori was not there at the time of the shooting. Lori said she was there. So, they got caught in that lie. So they were all a part of it. Yeah. All right. Anybody want to add anything? Did I miss any of the details? It is a twisted, crazy story, truly.
Or of an investigation involving someone named Lori Vallow.
Yes.
Did you also learn about an individual named Alex Cox?
Yes.
And did you also learn about an individual named Chad Daybell?
Yes.
Did the Gilbert Police Department request your assistance?
Yes, they did.
What did they request your assistance with?
Trying to locate a 2018 Jeep Wrangler, gray in color with Texas plates.
Did you personally follow up on looking for the Jeep?
Yes.
Where did you initially attempt to locate the Jeep?
Went to the 202 North, 1900 East in Fremont County.
And what residence is that?
The Chad Daybell residence.
Okay. Why did you follow up on this?
It was just quick and easy. Detectives was busy. So I just got in my vehicle and drove out there and checked.
Okay. Did you conduct additional surveillance when you were looking for the Jeep?
Yes.
Where did you conduct that additional surveillance?
565 Pioneer Road in Rexburg.
And how, if at all, did that connect to the death of Tammy Daybell?
Chad Daybell was at that residence with that residence there.
Okay. What, if anything else, about your conversation with Arizona caused you concern over Tammy's death?
About the death surrounding the individuals and the attempted murder.
Okay. Was there anything that caused you concern specifically with the names Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell being connected?
Yeah, the same with the deaths and attempted murder.
Were you involved in surveilling Chad and Lori?
Yes.
How so?
We surveilled them to a few different locations.
Okay. Your Honor, I'm going to ask that the witness be handed State's Exhibits 35 and 36 at this time. And I believe the court and defense has courtesy copies.
Can I take a look at those just to make sure they're the same as my courtesy cup? Thank you.
All right, with respect to Exhibit 35, do you recognize this document, Lieutenant Powell?
Yes,
How are you able to recognize it?
I was sitting at that table when the photo was taken.
And when was that photograph taken?
November 1st, 2019.
Okay. Does it fairly and accurately depict the scene as you saw it on the day that it was taken?
Yes.
Are there any material alterations to that photograph?
No.
Your Honor, I'm moving for the admission of State's Exhibit 35.
Any objection?
No objection.
Exhibit 35 is admitted.
And turning your attention to Exhibit 36, Lieutenant Powell, do you recognize that document?
Yes.
How are you able to recognize it?
This was on that same day,
And can you tell us the date again?
November 1st, 2019.
And does it fairly and accurately depict the scene as you observed it that day?
Yes.
Are there any material alterations to the photograph?
No.
Your Honor, I also move for the admission of Exhibit 36, excuse me.
Any objection?
No objection.
Exhibit 36 is admitted.
And Your Honor, may I have those exhibits back to publish them to the jury?
You may.
All right, and I think this is the third time that I've asked you this question, but when did you observe Chad and Lori at Cafe Rio?
November 1st, 2019.
And this picture depicts that?
Yes.
And what were your observations of them while they were at Cafe Rio?
There's in conversation and eating.
Okay. Where else did you observe Chad and Lori?
Walking in the Hobby Lobby.
Okay, and does this picture show that?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And what did you observe about their behavior with each other?
They was holding hands as they was walking in.
At some point, was an investigation into Tammy's death conducted?
Yes.
Why?
Because of all the suspicious circumstances, the investigation, her age.
Okay. You mentioned her age. Were there any other suspicious circumstances that you'd elaborate on?
Through the investigation, it seemed that she was in pretty good health.
Okay. And was this a joint investigation with other agencies?
Yes, it was.
What other agencies were involved at this point?
Rexburg Police Department, the Sheriff's Office, and I believe the FBI was too.
Okay. At some point, did you turn this investigation over to detectives in the Fremont County Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
Is that a common practice?
Yes.
How is that decided?
It's just decided on by me, the sheriff, or the chief deputy, and depending on the caseload and what's going on.
Okay. What did you do specifically in relation to the investigation involving Tammy's death?
I did a search warrant on the townhomes in Rexburg, on one townhome in Rexburg. And then I helped with the search warrant at the Daybell residence and the exhumation of Tammy Daybell.
Okay. Now, with regard to the search warrant for the townhomes in Rexburg, the one specifically you did, were you able to determine who was on the lease?
Yes.
Who was that?
Alex Cox,
Do you recall the number?
175.
Okay. Did you also seek search warrants for Tammy Daybell's medical records?
Yes, I did.
And what did you learn from your review of those records?
That she didn't go to the doctor very often. She was in good health. She was being seen for depression and hurt hand.
Do you recall from your review of those medical records anything regarding her heart or blood pressure?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. I don't think he has the qualifications to be commenting on medical records.
At this point, I will sustain that objection. I think that's probably outside of the scope of proper testimony for this witness.
Did you run a controlled prescription check or seek a search warrant for Tammy's prescriptions?
Yes.
What did you learn from your review of the prescription records?
Again, Your Honor, I'm not sure he can testify as to review of prescription medical records. It's the same thing.
He can talk about what he saw in review of the records. What that means is probably outside the scope of any expertise he may have, but you can answer that question, and I'll probably have Madam Prosecutor read the question again at this point.
Okay. And I'll maybe lay a little bit more foundation, Your Honor, too.
Thank you.
As part of your duties as law enforcement, are you able to run controlled substance checks for people's prescriptions?
Yes.
And that's a database that you have access to as a member of law enforcement?
Yes.
And so you're able to verify whether someone has a prescription for a controlled substance?
Yes.
All right. And then in addition to that check, in this case, you also did get a warrant for her prescriptions from Walmart. Is that correct?
Yes.
And in checking that, just asking what you observed or what you saw in terms of the prescriptions she was provided.
She was prescribed fluoxetine and tramadol.
Based on that, did that cause you any additional concern?
Yes.
What was that?
Your Honor, I apologize, but if he's going to start talking about fluoxetine or tramadol, I'm going to have an objection. I don't think he's qualified to speak on those things. I don't think there's been proper foundation as to his qualifications as a pharmacist and or medical doctor.
All right, there is a pending objection. I think certainly the officers got the foundation here in the training to review what prescriptions were in terms of what those may mean in a medical sense. I think would be outside the scope of proper testimony. So there hasn't been a response yet, but with that in mind, Madam Prosecutor, you can continue to inquire.
Okay. As a result of your investigation, was a decision made to exhume Tamara Daybell's body?
Yes.
What facts for you played into the decision to exhume her?
She was healthy, her age. There was no sign of heart or blood pressure. And with
Again, Your Honor, I'm going to object. He's now talking about her medical diagnoses.
That's overruled. You can continue to answer.
and with her husband being with another lady so soon after.
Okay. And what role did you play in the process for exhuming her body?
I got a court order from Utah.
And was that signed by a judge?
Yes, it was.
Where was her body located?
Springfield, Utah.
Okay. Were you present for the exhumation?
Yes.
And Your Honor, at this time, I'm going to ask that the witness be handed States Exhibits 37A through 37H.
All right, the witness will be provided those exhibits.
And Lieutenant, can you just review those quickly?
I apologize, Your Honor. Before he answers, may I take a look at those just to make sure they conform to what I have?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. And just to speed things along, I have no objection to the admission of any of those.
All right, thank you for that, Mr. Thomas. So they're being offered, I assume, Ms. Rawlings?
Yes, Your Honor. And if there's no objection, I'd move for their admission and to publish to the jury.
Okay, I will then put on the record exhibits 37A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H have all been admitted and may be published to the jury.
And Lieutenant Powell, in your review of those photos, were they, I think I may have already asked you this, but in case I didn't, were you present for the exhumation?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And I'm just going to walk you through this, and maybe it's better to see. So in looking at State's Exhibit 37A, what does that depict?
Tammy Daybell's grave, and off to the right-hand side, you can see the backhoe, a little bit of it.
And 37B?
The backhoe digging the grave up.
$37C?
The vault being lifted out of the ground.
$37D?
The vault outside the ground.
And what material is the vault made of?
Cement.
$37E?
The vault being open, showing the top of the casket.
And 37F?
Inside the vault with the casket removed.
$37G?
The casket being loaded into the vehicle to be transported.
Okay. Where was her body taken?
To the medical examiner's office in Utah.
And were you present when the coffin was opened?
Yes, I was.
Did you know Tammy Daybell prior to this investigation?
No, I did not.
Were you able to identify the remains of Tammy Daybell?
Yes.
How?
From photographs.
And 37H is being published to the jury at this time. Was Tammy's body still in a condition that you could identify it based on those pictures that you'd reviewed?
Yes.
Was there any indication that the body or the casket had been tampered with in any manner?
No.
And what did you see inside the casket?
Tammy Daybell's body.
Were you present for the autopsy?
Yes, I was.
Was there a determination as to the cause of death at that time?
No, there was not.
Following the autopsy, what happened with regard to Tammy's body?
She was taken to a funeral home and then prepared and then taken back out and reburied.
Once the autopsy was concluded, were there any other actions taken in relation to that investigation?
Yes, from the other detectives. Then
Okay. Now I'm going to turn your attention to January 3rd of 2020. Were you working that day?
yes, I was
What was your assignment that day?
to help serve a search warrant.
Where did you serve the search warrant?
202 North, 1900 East in Fremont County, Idaho.
And what type of building is that?
It's a single family dwelling.
Okay. And whose residence is it or dwelling is it?
Chad Davis.
Were any other agencies involved in the service of that search warrant on January 3rd, 2020?
Yes, Rexburg detectives, FBI ERT team, and Fremont County Sheriff's Office.
Did they collect
Fremont County Sheriff's Office?
evidence?
Yes,
At the end of the search warrant, were items found in the home turned over to you?
yes.
Do you recall who turned those items over to you?
The FBI ERT team
And where was this again?
at 202 North, 1900 East in Fremont County.
And how were the items packaged?
In evidence packaging.
What did you do with those items?
Loaded the items in my vehicle and Detective Mattingly's vehicle.
Okay. And after loading those items, where were they transported?
The Fremont County Sheriff's Office.
After arriving at the sheriff's office, did you turn possession of those items, all those items, over to another officer?
Yes, to Detective Bruce Mattingly.
Okay. And were you involved in booking any of that evidence?
No, I was not.
I don't have any other questions, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Rawlings.
You're fine, DB.
Cross-examination from the defense.
I'm trying not to
Does
interrupt
the
the
court wanting to take a mid-morning
the
break
court-
anytime? I mean, just kind of give me kind of a ballpark as to when you want me to.
I was thinking around 10:30, but any
Okay,
time.
I think I could probably be done by then. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas.
We've been live 3 hours and we're still not finished, so I'm trying not to interrupt. We did a lot of talking with Crescia when she
Bonneville
was
County?
here.
Bonneville County.
Yes.
And how far is that from St. Anthony? So your office is in St. Anthony, is that right?
Yes, it is.
And this photograph was taken in Idaho Falls, is that right?
Yes.
So how far of a drive, if you were to drive, how far is that?
Approximately 30 minutes.
Okay. And your normal jurisdiction is Fremont County, but you indicate in this particular case that you've served a search warrant or was the primary on a search warrant in Madison County, correct?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
I apologize. Maybe I got some things mixed up. You were not on the search warrant of the townhomes in Rexburg?
No, if I did, I just assisted. I was not primary on it.
Okay. You didn't testify to anything about search warrants in the townhomes in Rexburg?
I served a search warrant to see who was on the lease for the townhomes. Yes.
Okay. And those townhomes are located in what county?
Rexburg,
Madison?
Madison County. Yes.
Okay. All right. And you indicated that Alex Cox was on the lease at 175?
Yes.
Okay. But you weren't involved in actually searching that townhome?
I don't recall, but if I was, it was just assisting Rexburg PD.
Okay. But you don't have any specific recollection of being there when when those townhomes were searched?
I don't.
Okay. All right. As far as your surveillance goes of Lori and Chad Daybell, how many times did you surveil them?
Just that one day.
Oh, just the one time. Okay.
Yes.
And did you follow them to their location from Fremont or Madison County?
Yes.
And which one?
From Madison County.
Okay. And where in Madison County did you follow them from?
565 Pioneer Road.
Okay. So where were you? Were you doing kind of like a stakeout or something at that particular area?
Yes.
Okay. And how long had you been there before you saw Chad and Lori?
I don't recall how long we'd been there.
Half an hour, more than half an hour?
I'd say at least a half an hour.
Okay. And then you followed them down to Idaho Falls?
We followed them a few different places, but yes, we did end up going to Idaho Falls.
When you say we, who is we?
There was myself, Chief Deputy Thad Gardner, Detective Stubbs, and I believe Detective Hermosillo was there for a little bit, but then he had to leave.
Were you all four in the same car or were you in different cars?
Different vehicles.
Okay. So you were the only one in your vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. And to your knowledge, were you the only one who captured photographic evidence of this particular surveillance?
No, there was others that collected photos.
Other photos that were taken on this day?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. When you were sitting in Cafe Rio, did you happen to overhear any of the conversation between Chad and Lori?
No.
How far away were you?
There was a table in between us.
Okay. It didn't look like it was very busy. Were they talking at all?
Appeared to be talking, yes.
Okay, but you couldn't hear anything they were saying?
Not to my recollection, no.
Okay. Were you involved at all in the October 9th investigation of the attempted paintball shooting of Tammy Daybell?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. This is beyond the scope.
I'll overrule that.
Go ahead and answer.
No, I was not.
Okay. Do you happen to know, you were involved in the investigation of Tammy Daybell's death, correct?
Yes.
I mean, obviously you went down to the exhumation and stuff.
Yes.
Are you aware of where Lori Vallow was when Tammy Daybell died on October 19th?
No.
Would it surprise you to know that she was in Hawaii?
No.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thomas. Any redirect from the state?
No, Your Honor.
All right, that'll conclude the testimony then of Officer Powell. I think this will probably be a good time to take a mid-morning break. If I could just briefly meet with council at the beginning of break to review the day's schedule, we'll do that. And all please rise for the jury then.
Yeah, they do have hard evidence, big ups. They found hair on the inside of the duct tape that
All right,
was
thank
on
you.
JJ.
Let me just indicate also, as we break for the morning break and at any other breaks, there's a couple of rooms that are reserved just outside the courtroom for counsel only. So if you're a member of the observing public, please don't make any entry into those rooms just outside the courtroom doors here. And with that in mind, we'll have our mid-morning break, and I'll just briefly discuss our scheduling with council.
So they found the hair, and then they've got GPS satellite positionings that have Alex and Chad Daybell at the exact burial sites for JJ and
Thank you.
Tylee.
Please be seated.
We haven't found that out yet, big ups.
Mr. Bailiff, and as soon as the jurors are ready, they can be brought it back in.
I'm sure it's going to be Lori's hair. Remember, we got 8 weeks of this. This is only the first week. They've got a ton of evidence to present. Yeah, that's true, Mom of the Castle. Yeah. I don't know. I will say, actually, you bring up a good point, Mom of the Castle. They did say that the hair is not very big, so they didn't know if they were going to have enough of the hair to cut so that each team would be able to do their own testing. So maybe it is Chad's hair. That would be wonderful if it turned out to be so. Here's the thought, people. Wouldn't that be something if it turned out to be Melanie Gibbs' hair? Woo, that'd be a coup. Absolutely stuffed banana. That's it, right, big ups. That's why I made the let's see if I can find it. What did I do with it? That's why I made that visual right there. Lori did it.
All right, please.
All right, thank you. Please be seated. Okay, we're back on the record on KCR 22-21-1624. The jurors are all present, state's present, as well as the defendant and her counsel. We just concluded our mid-morning break. Typically at this time, we would commence with another witness. However, there's been some unforeseen circumstances that have required the state to request that we adjourn for the day. We've discussed that in chambers, and I understand the defense would not object to that request given the circumstances as well. So does the state request an adjournment for the day?
Yes, thank you.
All right, does the defense agree?
Yes, that's fine, Your Honor.
Okay, I appreciate that, counsel. So ladies and gentlemen of the jury, occasionally these things come up during a long trial. We appreciate your attendance today. We will be adjourning for the day. I will also advise you that we have determined that we're going to need to take a day off, which would be next Monday, the 17th. So we'll be back on for trial tomorrow, Thursday, the 13th, and Friday, the 14th. And then you will not be required to return on the 17th, and then we'll start again on the 18th. And I just thought I'd let you know in advance so you can make plans to do other things while you have that break coming up this weekend. So that will conclude evidence for today. As I try to remember to tell you each time we break for the day, please continue to follow the admonishment of the court to not investigate this case. Don't look into the case through the internet or through any other media sources. Please don't discuss the case with anyone else, including each other. And with that, if all would please rise, we'll have the jury excused for the day. All right.
It's so sad, isn't it, about Lindsay's family? We don't really know, what happened. Or I don't know. Have they been reporting if we know like which family member it was? Let me see if I can find anything. Lindsay Blake.
All right, thank you. We'll be adjourned until tomorrow morning at 8.
Your Honor, I apologize. I just had one quick thing. May Joe Powell be released from his subpoena?
Yes, unless there's any objection from the defense.
No objection.
All right, Officer Powell is released from his subpoena. Thank you, counsel. We will recommence tomorrow morning at 8:30.
Thank you.
All rise.
Yeah, I'm not seeing all it's saying. I'm not seeing anywhere. Let me look on DuckDuckGo. No, I don't see. Let me check Reddit. See if well, East Idaho News may be more likely to have something. The delay is due to a death in Lindsay Blake's family. Oh, okay. So they're not really telling us like who passed away. They are saying, I found a couple of reports that said that they're going to go ahead and have court on Thursday and Friday, but even tomorrow, it looks like it's going to end a little bit early. So I would kind of guess that probably they've rearranged like the witnesses that they're putting up so that they can make use of their other attorneys and any witnesses that Lindsay Blake would have been interviewing. That'll probably be put off till next week. So I know it's a little frightening, you know, we'll just have to reserve, you know, comment till we find out exactly who died. Like if she's got elderly parents, you know, one of them passed away, that's pretty, it's not really ominous, but if it was somebody really close to her, it could be ominous, you know. I think Alex did something to JJ, and I believe Chad shot Tylee with the raccoon, yeah, and to dispose of her. Okay. I couldn't believe it. She saw a silencer. He apparently, thank God, was not professional. Yeah, I think Much Endeavors, I think that Brandon Boudreaux actually described the silencer. And that was before they found the guns and noticed that they actually, you know, were tooled to accept a silencer on them. So, well, if you listen to the Reverend Donna Serafina, DB, she said way back in December, before they even found the children's bodies, she said that Lori did it. That Lori put the plastic bag on his head and wrapped the duct tape, and that there was a man there who helped her. Hi, Sandra Chapman. Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, you guys have definitely been troopers. This was 3 hours and 20 minutes. A long one for sure. So please remember to keep the family of Lori Blake in your prayers tonight. And I think that Larry and Kay Woodcock, Crescia, Colby Ryan, of course, they need special prayers just to have strength, just to get through this, you know. There's no way to do this except just take a deep breath and walk through it, you know, until you get to the other side. So so prayers for them. And I will not be live tomorrow, but I will see you guys on Friday. Okay. Thank y'all so much for listening with me. I appreciate it. We were a little bit long sometimes. If you're interested, we did have a pretty good discussion at the beginning of this video. So if you came in later, you may want to, you know, kind of rewind, go back to the front. I usually move these over to members only, but I'll leave it live tonight and then I'll put it under members only tomorrow, in case you got here late, you want to go back and listen to the discussion. We talked for quite a long time before we finally got into the testimony. So I'll wait till tomorrow to move it over and give y'all time to go listen. Please hit the thumbs up. I really and truly, I would appreciate it so much. Hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe if you have not already. And I love the comments that you leave. And let's pray for justice for Tammy Daybell, Tylee, and JJ. All right. And Charles Vallow will get his day in court in Arizona. All right, people. I hope you guys sleep well. Thank y'all for helping me listen to the testimony tonight. See you Friday.